a regular business meeting a little bit later on this evening. But to start us off tonight here, Monday, March 23rd, 2026, we're going to start the evening off with a public hearing. And if it's okay, I'd like to read, for formalities, I'd like to read the language into the record, and then we'll open the public hearing. Public hearing, item 1, ordinance appropriating $86,675,560 for costs related to the elementary facilities plan, including a new Kelly Elementary School, fit-out of the South End Elementary School, and closing Flanders Elementary School and repurposing the building and property for municipal and community use, and authorizing the issue of $86,675,560 in bonds and notes to finance the appropriation. Okay, so what I'd like to do is maybe just explain a little bit about the public hearing. What we'll do is we will invite anybody who is a resident or a business owner in town, or if you work in town, can speak during the public hearing. We will, we're not going to do yays and nays. It's going to be first come, first serve. So whoever wants to come up to the podium first will come first, and so on. If there's a large number of people who are going to speak, don't be afraid to go one or two people and line up a little bit behind the podium to kind of save your spot, and it also give me a cue to help manage the timing a little bit. It looks like we should have plenty of time for tonight. Our only obligation is we have to get our business meeting in by midnight. So I'm sure all of you hope to not be here at that time as well. But if it's okay, what I'd like to do, and we won't hold you to it, but if you're thinking about talking tonight, can you just raise your hand so I can get an idea of the volume? Okay, we got plenty of time. So we're reserving 5 minutes for everybody. If we were going to have 100 people speaking, I'd maybe have to manage that down a little bit. But we got 5 minutes, plenty of time. What we'll do is we'll open it up for whoever wants to come on up and start us off, please, sir. And what you'll do is, please, when you come up, please state your name and your address for the record, and then the floor is yours.
Hi, my name is Brian Teskey, and I live at 362 Mill Street, right up the hill. I've lived in town for 48 years. Good evening, neighbors. We all want excellent school systems for Southington kids, but excellence isn't measured in concrete. It's measured in reading scores, graduation rates, and teacher quality. Tonight's proposal for us to commit $86 million in local taxpayer dollars for new elementary schools and expansion and closing Flanders Elementary Phase 1 and a new Kelly School in South End expansion. Phase 2 is another $60 million, and that's on top of the Board of Education's separate $268 million 5-year capital plan for HVAC roofs and upgrades that's already been approved. This isn't maintenance, it's full-scale rebuild, while enrollment trends statewide scream caution. We could do better for our kids and our wallets. The cost is unsustainable and lacks transparent tax impact. This isn't free money. It's bonded debt repaid through property taxes for 20 or 30 years, plus interest. Southington homeowners are already absorbing repeated mill rate increases, 4 to 6%. Wish it was that low this year. Adding $90 million in new debt service is going to cost roughly $5 to $8 million a year with interest and payments. It's going to push taxes even higher. I mean, that's easily 10% of the new budget, again, for the town, not the total budget. Yeah, I don't really see when we do all of this work. We rebuilt both middle schools. We did a big job on South End, but we really have no metrics that we hold the Board of Education accountable for. How's it going to improve the reading skills? How's it going to improve their math skills? How's it going to improve their comprehension skills? If you look at the state-mandated tests that Southington has to do, just like every other town in the state, we're failing. The entire state of Connecticut, the entire country, compared globally, is failing. We spend all this money and we don't improve the education at all. Yeah, the buildings look pretty, but how does that help the kids? I don't think that helps the kids at all. Recent trends for the last 20 years, we just had a 2.1% drop in Connecticut for students. The amount of students is trending down. We're spending 270 million. We're spending $350 million, and we have less students. And if the trend continues in 10 years, the schools are going to be empty, and we're going to dump $370 million into it. I already kind of hit on it, but facility upgrades have minimal impact on real learning outcomes. Decades of education research from sources like Brookings Institute and state data analysis show that shiny new buildings have weak or no correlation with student achievement. Teacher quality, curriculum, class size, and family involvement drive results, not HVAC systems or new cafeterias. Southington's own data shows aging buildings, mostly from the 50s and 60s, but no crisis in outcome that 86 million in bricks is magically going to fix any education issues. If we redirected some of that $86 million to try to make teachers pay more competitive, bring teachers better teachers in here, and ask our superintendent to come up with a better curriculum that more addresses why our scores in Southington are so low. I mean, we're ranked like in the 60s or 70s in the state of Connecticut. We're ranked like 3,100 in the country. I mean, our scores are not that great. Everybody says Southington's got the best schools. Southington got the best schools. But our rankings don't show we have the best school. I mean, I've lived in Southington my whole life. Both of my kids graduated from Southington High. I tell you that there's nothing the best about Southington. It's decent, it's good, but it's far from the best.
So your
Then we
time,
still have issues about all the disruption. I mean, we're complaining about the high school now. We got to redo the high school. We need more parking. We need this. We need that. I'll tell you what, as a retired, long-term Southington resident that pays taxes every year and absolutely doesn't use 75% of the budget, because my son graduated in 2004, so I've been paying good 20 years for those schools. I'd rather have the kid get on the bus that I'm already paying for.
Mr. Teskey.
Why do I want to spend millions of dollars on a new parking lot when there's already a bus system that everybody in this room is
Mr.
already
Teskey.
paying for?
Mr. Teskey.
When I was in high school,
Your 5 minutes is up. The timer went off. So can you maybe just take the next 10 or 15 seconds to wrap?
yeah, I was just going to say when I was in high school, the parking lot was priority only. I was on the work-study program, so I got a permit to park at the high school, and everybody else, when the permits were out, they were out.
Thank you.
Thank you for your
Thanks,
time.
Mr. Teskey. Before we go to the next one, I made a mistake, and I'd like to maybe just ask the superintendent. Steve, maybe just come up and give a brief summary again of what the overall project is. Just give a quick, brief summary, the numbers, maybe the schools that are impacted. Maybe just address a couple of the things along the way that you've also been communicating. I'd like to just give the opportunity for the folks here to hear from you in the high level in case they want to address any of the comments that you make.
Sure.
Once we're done with the public hearing, we'll give you an opportunity. If there's some questions that they have, we'll give you an opportunity to maybe answer some of the questions that are outstanding, or if you hear something that maybe needs some additional information, we'll give you an opportunity to say a couple minutes on that as well.
Sure.
Okay?
I'll try to be brief,
And
when
Mr. Teskey, in fairness, if the superintendent says something that you would have made a comment on, let me know, and I'll let you say a couple words at the end, okay? Thanks.
Thank you. Just given the show of hands, you had about 24 people, so 5 minutes apiece are about 2 hours. So I'm going to be brief, just because I know you have a meeting to conduct as well after this, and I want to be respectful of folks' time. The project that is being proposed is to build a new Kelly Elementary School. At our last board meeting, the board unanimously approved the educational specifications for both Kelly's new construction. That presentation is online. It shows where the school would be situated on the site. A lot of people didn't realize how large that property actually is because most of it's wooded. but it is a large parcel of land. And South End is the expansion of adding 5 classrooms on the lower level, which already the shell of that, most of you know, based on our presentation at the last council meeting, is already built. It was kind of a forward-looking approach that they took when they constructed the school. The information I think that is getting kind of either taken out of context or maybe getting confusing for folks is what is the actual bottom line price to Southington. And that's after the reimbursement rate is kicked in, that's the number that the town would be responsible for in terms of bonding. Maximum reimbursement, if we were to get the full 65%, which is 15% for the preschool wing and 50% is our state formula right now, it says what we're eligible for, would be about between $31 and $32 million. If we do not get the maximum reimbursement, it would be $39 million. So there is a significant interest in getting the space standard waiver. That happens through the legislative session, so we would be initially applying for a space standard waiver with our grant application submission in June. One project that I know of that the Department of Administrative Services that oversees DAS, the construction body of the state that oversees these applications, actually granted them a space standard waiver with their application. It did not need special legislative action because they were justifying essentially why they were asking for a larger school, because they had a larger district plan, which is similar to what we're going to try and do. We do have a larger plan that shows school consolidation and redistricting, and so that hopefully maybe gets us the space standard waiver and the maximum reimbursement without even needing legislative action. But if we do not get the standard waiver through the application process, then we would look to the members of our delegation, our Southington delegation that are up the state, and request their assistance in getting legislative action. It's a pretty standard process that many towns use in terms of seeking a space standard waiver. That wouldn't happen until the next legislative session because this session ends May 4th and we won't even know the results of the referendum until June 2nd. And so we can't request that legislative action now. Relative to redistricting, a lot of people are wondering like, well, it's a plan that I'm not sure how it's going to impact me because redistricting is part of the entire proposal. It's just really important. There's not to state this, there's not a secret plan in a drawer somewhere that we're just withholding. The plan of redistricting isn't, essentially drawn up until you get much closer to the completion date of the Kelly School project because you're using as much real-time data as you can gather in making those final decisions. And the reason for that is so that you're reasonably certain that you're only impacting families once. If you're making redistricting decisions now and telling people this is what it's going to look like, there can be housing development between now and then. There can be housing turnover between now and then. There may not be a lot of development, but there's certainly, we know the housing turnover is relatively slow right now given the interest rates and the property values. So, housing turnover, if that stem changes, that tide changes a little, that could impact, some of our enrollments. And then lastly, the real-time enrollment of the students that are in our elementary schools or going to be in our elementary schools closer to the 2030-31 school year is the information we're going to seek to determine the final boundaries. So we're looking at doing that about 18 months prior to the project being complete, so that we do have a year and a half to work with families and the community to help them better understand what the district boundaries would look like, to hold community conversations about that, answer questions folks may have. But they literally use PowerSchool, which is our student information system. It has all of our student demographic data in it, so the ages of the students, the grades, and the schools they attend, and then the streets they live on. They kind of merge that software with some geo-mapping software that they use, and they almost in real time can move using the software, move boundaries around and see what the utilization rate and enrollment rate would look like at the time that we have that data in place. So it is something that it's not necessarily meant to be secret of why we're not telling people what the redistricting is. It's more so because we don't want to land on those redistricting boundaries until we have the most accurate information closer to the project completion date.
Maybe before we go, does anybody have a question for the superintendent on the dais here that you think would help add clarity to this? Okay, thank you. And, if you'll hang around until later on, that would be great.
Yep.
Mr. Teske, anything you heard here that you wanted to add a minute? Yeah, sure, come on up. We'll let you finish out of fairness to
I'd
my
just like
mistake
to
there.
say one thing, that my son went to Kelly School, And he went on to graduate from UConn with a degree in actuarial science. So the building was perfectly good enough for him to get an actuarial science degree. And the second thing is, if you got to redistrict for the new buildings and the new renovations and all these millions of dollars, why don't we just redistrict now and use the facilities that are already paid for instead of adding more money onto the taxpayers?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know how old your son is, but if he's similar to mine, it was West Ridge. 40, okay. All right, I went to West Ridge at the time. All right. Thank you.
Good evening. Lindsay Verno, 26 Alice Lane. Good evening, members of the council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I am here to voice my support for this project because together we can ensure an equitable, modern environment for all of our students. This proposal is more than maintaining a building. It is about investing in the future of our children and our community. First, why this project matters. This is not just a simple renovation or fix-up, it's truly a modernization. For a cost around $31 million, we would be creating a brand-new, future-ready facility. By comparison, spending $25 million on basic repairs would still leave us with a 60-year-old building shell that still falls short of today's educational and safety standards. That is not a long-term solution, it's a temporary patch. Second, fiscal responsibility. This plan is thoughtful and cost-conscious. By consolidating from 8 schools to 7, the town avoids an additional $25 million in the future capital expense for Flanders, while also benefiting from lowering annual operational cost. This is a strategic move that reduces long-term financial burden while improving quality. Third, state support. We have a significant opportunity to leverage outstanding funding. The town can receive up to 65% reimbursement from the state. That is a substantial return on our investment, one we shouldn't leave on the table. Fourth, smart planning. This project has been carefully phased to ensure the town remains below the 9.5 debt service limit. Importantly, there will be no impact on debt service for the next 2 years. That level of planning demonstrates both responsibility and foresight. Finally, this project directly addresses local challenges. It allows for better neighborhood schools so students living near Kelly can attend closer to home instead of commuting to Thalberg, easing overcrowding and improving daily life for families. It minimizes disruptions by allowing construction on a different portion of the site, so students can remain in their current classrooms throughout the process. And it improves traffic and safety by resolving long-standing congestion and parking issues currently affecting Hatton and Strong. In closing, this is a rare opportunity to make a smart, forward-thinking investment, one that benefits our students, respects our taxpayers, and strengthens our community as a whole. I urge you to support this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Verino. And just for some more background information for folks who may be sticking around, the public hearing, the aim of the public hearing overall is for the council to decide whether we will send this to referendum or not, right? So the decision that will eventually be made by this council is only to whether to send this to referendum or not. It's not to make a decision whether we're going to do the project or not. So that will be the outcome at some point of this council. Tonight, we will not make that decision. So for those of you who may be sticking around thinking that, well, there may be a decision during the meeting, that is not an agenda topic for us tonight to make a decision on that. So we will not have that decision at the end of the meeting. Thank you.
You stole my whole, what I was going to say.
There you go. I didn't take any of your time then.
Susan Zabahansky, Plantsville. So this is a public hearing as to whether or not we put this out to vote where citizens in the town can vote on this referendum. And I think that is the way a project like this, number one, has to be done and should be done. The thing that I would request, I think it should be put on the ballot in November because everybody's already going to the polls in November. So that's one thing I disagree with about is the timing. And I know I've heard some things about grants and things, but if the next legislative legislative session. Doesn't start until January. I don't see why there's a rush to push this to referendum in June. So that's one thing I'm talking about, and maybe then we can educate voters a little better, because now it seems a little rushed. I know you guys have done tons of stuff to try to educate people, but the bottom line is most people don't pay attention to our government and what's occurring until it affects them. And as we can see now, when it starts to affect people, then they pay attention. And I know that, you know, the superintendent certainly has put forward all kinds of plans, and they're available online, and they've had thousands of meetings that some of us pay attention to online when we have time. But I don't, and so I may have missed this grant period thing, but I would advise putting it in November when the majority of the public is going to be going out to vote anyway for statewide elections. And I would request that the language be very clear as to how much money is going to be spent on each part, if that's possible. You know, I know there's this big lump sum. Maybe if it could be the language in the, you know, you have the language here, but when you're voting on the language, it could be very clear, like maybe this much money is going for here and this much money is going to this, so that there's a better understanding. And I also think that maybe mailing, I know I'm definitely not advocating for spending in the town, as many of you know, but, and I'm clearly, I think a school needs to be closed, because that's the only way we can lower our Board of Education budget lower than what we give every year without giving an increase. So I'm certainly always in favor of trying to decrease our Board of Education budget as much as we can within the confines of the law, which says we can never decrease it unless we close a school. So those are just some of my concerns about the referendum question, things to consider. Thank you.
Wonderful, thanks. Anybody else like to speak tonight?
Hi, good evening.
Good
Ben
evening.
McNamee, 59 Ridgewood Road. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight about the proposed school facility plan, and I'm speaking in favor of you all voting to send this to referendum. This proposal represents years of thoughtful work by the Board of Education, looking closely at building conditions, long-term costs, and what our students and educators truly need to succeed. At its core, this is about the reality of our school buildings. Many of them are aging, and we continue to invest in repairs to systems like heating, infrastructure, and overall efficiency. However, these fixes are often temporary. Over time, continuing to patch these issues becomes more costly and does not fully solve the problem. One piece I think is especially important, as the superintendent noted, is the role of state funding. So this plan is tied to a timeline that allows Southington to receive significant reimbursement from the state. And if we miss that window, we're likely to pay more locally for the same work later. This isn't if we do this, this is a when we do this. And this means the timing of the decision is just as important as the decision itself. I also want to share my perspective as someone who teaches at Southern Connecticut State University. In my work, I focus in part on educational environments. And there's a strong body of research showing that well-designed learning spaces directly impact student success. Things like lighting, temperature, acoustics, flexible space to be able to move around, all influence how students can focus, engage, and learn. The physical space is not separate from education, it's part of it. Beyond the classroom, strong schools matter to the entire community. They help support property values, they attract families to the area, and they strengthen the overall fabric of our town. Investing in school facilities is not just an investment in students, it's an investment in Southington as a whole. I know this is a complex decision, and it deserves thoughtful consideration, but doing nothing is also a choice, and it comes with growing costs and missed opportunities over time. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Anne Marie Conity, Mount Vernon Road. The Board of Education's plan, from what I've heard and what I've read, seems to have holes that people are not in favor of. And again, it's from what I've heard and what I've read. Putting forward a $184 million referendum for taxpayers requires a solid plan with public input. and I don't believe you have that right now. In my opinion, it's also fiscally irresponsible to request a referendum on June 2nd when we don't even know how we're going to get clobbered with taxes in July from budget increases and our reevaluation. How much more property taxes will be required from the same taxpayers to cover this school project if we go to referendum in June and it passes? I don't have a figure. Does the Board of Education even care about the taxpayers who in July may be looking to possibly lose their homes, cut back on food for their kids? Are they going to be able to pay their electric bills still? All the things it takes to live. No, because when you make good salaries and you get good pensions, you can't relate to the ordinary taxpayer. Plus, right now the Board of Ed consumes 70% of our budget. In my opinion, if this were to go through in 2 years, they'll consume 90% of our budget. That leaves 10% of our budget to run the rest of the town. Again, my opinion, the roadways in this whole country are crucial to running our country. We can't even maintain our roads at 10% the way they are now. So that's emergency personnel. You have a heart attack, go to the hospital. You have a school shooting, kids are getting shot. You have a terrible accident. God forbid any of those things happen. All the liability falls on the town of Southington. Did anybody ever think about that when we only have 10% of our budget left to run the town of Southington? I don't think so. Schools don't teach education, teachers do. I went to Strong School for kindergarten, Holcomb 1 to 5. We rented St. Thomas for 6th grade. We had to put 2 7th grades at North Center School. I was one of them. And I graduated 10th in my class. I had a good career. I'm proud of what I accomplished. And I stand by what I say. I think we have to start thinking more about the people that are paying these bills. And I think moving it to November would be a little bit more transparent when we see how many people are going to come forward in July and say, I can't possibly do this. I mean, I can't pay the taxes. I mean, we're already seeing our sewer bills not paid. But that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to come up? Going once? Okay. If you guys are going to speak, why don't you come on up and line up?
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Tracy Ianni. I live at 46 Alpine Trail in Plantsville and live in the Strong School District. I have lived in Southington for 54 years. When Strong, Hatton, and Thalberg were renovated more than 20 years ago, I thought the long-term plan was to update all of our school facilities over time. I appreciate the plight of Daranowski, Kelly, and Flanders, the remaining 3 schools whose time has not yet come. However, I do not support any plan that closes a single one of these schools. For example, citing Flanders' low enrollment as a reason for that closure makes it a too convenient choice. It wasn't always the case because really, doesn't Flanders now have the lowest enrollment because other schools were prioritized for upgrading and redistricting made it so? Wasn't Daranowski always going to have the highest enrollment simply by virtue of being the repurposed former high school and the largest facility? It is feasible to renovate or rebuild Flanders too. I realize the cost would be substantial, but I feel Flanders being in the beautiful neighborhood in a wonderful community, it deserves Southington's full support as well. Last week, a local newspaper had an article about the impact to Cheshire's residents due to the build of Barnum and the renovation of Norton Elementary. According to the article, quote, if the town council doesn't make significant reductions, residents can anticipate an 8.9% tax increase next fiscal year. What will the true impact to Southington residents be in 2031, 2029, whatever the dates are that you are quoting? Will there be cost overruns? Will things happen as you believe they will? When my son was in 2nd grade and in the Strong School District, there was a renovation ongoing there. Things did not go as planned. He ended up bused across town to Thalberg for an entire year in second grade on that bus every day for a solid year. Things happen. There are unanticipated consequences. Will we end up what we think we're going to end up with, or something similar to the library where we vote on one thing and we end up with something else? I have heard comments in the Board of Education meetings that perhaps there will be a repurposing of the building. I heard community services come up. I have volunteered for them for 13 years for their Christmas and Thanksgiving food deliveries. Janet Mellon is a treasure. I still don't want that to be anything other than a school. I have repeatedly voted to support initiatives that modernize our schools. I will not do so this time if the only plan involves closure of any school, including Flanders School, in the strongest possible terms. I urge the council to reconsider this plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ianni. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Megan Mealy. I'm at 545 West Street, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. At the risk of being redundant, I'm going to begin my remarks tonight the same way I did when I spoke to the Board of Ed on this topic earlier in the month. I'm the mom of a Kelly School second grader and a DePaulo sixth grader, so I have no vested interest in this project beyond being a member of this community and really wanting the best for the children of our towns. My second grader will never see a new building, and that's fine. I still think this is an important thing to talk to you about tonight. To be honest, I take umbrage with the assertion that delaying or stonewalling this project is in the spirit of prioritizing the success and the well-being of Southington students. In my view, delaying isn't a strategy, it's a risk, it's a mounting expense, and most significantly, it's a disservice to nearly 500 of our town's youngest learners. These students have not had the opportunity to learn in modernized buildings with up-to-date classrooms and basic optimized amenities. My 7-year-old refuses to wear long sleeves all winter because the heat in the Kelly building pumps so hard and likely inefficiently all winter. She goes to school in short sleeves. So continuing to do nothing, I think, is one of the most harmful choices we can make. To simply keep the lights on and address the failing infrastructure at Kelly and at Flanders, the town would still need to spend $25 million in capital improvements. And that's just to maintain 6-year-old buildings that don't meet modern learning needs. For a nominal difference in the final local share, we can secure brand new modern assets that will serve this town for another half century. I know a major talking point in debating this is that redistricting has not been determined yet. And I know that makes people nervous, and I understand. Truthfully, I would be concerned, though, if people in charge pretended to be able to forecast 5 years into the future to draw attendance lines for a school that won't open until 2030. If we drew those lines today, they would be based on 2026 data that would be completely outdated by the time the doors actually open. The 3-year planning window included in this proposal is a feature, not a flaw. It ensures that when we finally do move our students, it will be one time, and that the lines are based on real current population data, which is what our students deserve. Putting students first means giving them a safe, modern place to learn now, while the financial math still works in our favor. We cannot afford to wait while our students remain in antiquated facilities. Let's choose a permanent solution over another decade of figuring it out, while the price tag only goes up and our youngest learners bear the impact. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Kimberly Tricolo, 211 Crest Road. I'm here tonight because although I am all for new schools for our students, I am not in support of this district facility plan. I believe new schools are valuable and necessary to a community when the benefit is for all students and financially makes sense. However, the plan being proposed, as I have followed through its inception when conversations started in 2017, as I have an 8th and 5th grader, is still filled with questions and uncertainty, financially and systematically, and does not put all our students first. The first concerns I have are closing a school, redistricting all students, and consolidating. I work in a different district that has done just this. This will negatively impact Southington as a whole. Mr. Medancy has responded to inquiries about potential class sizes, saying that they plan to follow the board's size recommendation of 18 in K, 20 in grade 1, 22 in grade 2, and 24 in grades 3 and 5. 3 through 5, that they would try to balance special education caseloads as well. Have you seen what a class of 18 5-year-olds looks like, or 22 7 and 8-year-olds, even 24 10-year-olds on the edge of puberty? Probably not, because many people making these decisions are not in the classrooms day in and day out. With mandates that continue to pile up, along with budget cuts that seem to cut more resources and support from our schools year after year, you are continually asking our educators to do more with less. Large class sizes directly impact their ability to effectively teach all students to their maximum growth potential. If all 8 elementary schools remained open and the Board of Ed looked to better balance district enrollment among them now, Southington students would all be given an opportunity to be in a school with reasonable class sizes. Social, emotional, academic, and behavioral needs can be met in this environment. Teachers can pull students into smaller groups or even one-to-one when a reteach of a lesson, strategy, or some encouragement is needed. Students can feel comfortable to take risks. Intervention would be effective. Students would be supportive. When a school closes and class sizes increase due to consolidation or move to contract allowed sizes, as bubble years do happen, and one cohort is bigger than that of a projected enrollment, as I have seen firsthand, classroom teachers have less opportunities for small group and one-to-one instruction. These class sizes hinder early intervention of behavior. In these busy classrooms, subtle and early signs of agitation go unnoticed, allowing small frustrations to escalate into disruptions that compromise learning for the entire room. There is also less time to meet the needs of complex learners within the classroom setting or even an intervention. This then leads to increased referrals to special education and increased caseloads in need of support services that are then absorbed by the current staff in the building, which wouldn't be accounted for in the redistricting plan. Special education-related services are also affected. Due to restrictions on scheduling and less delivery time possible, these groups, which are supposed to be small and intentional, become large and less effective. These staff are also involved in more meetings, which result in missed groups with little time for compensatory hours. Admin's presence in classrooms will also be affected. They will be in more meetings and completing even more mandated challenging behavioral investigations due to more behaviors happening with bigger classroom settings. This all leads to our district rating going down. Once a district's educational system declines, so does its property value. We will no longer be a town sought out for neighborhood schools where love came first, teachers cheered at local games and knew every student's name, and where parents were often alumni themselves. Our children won't return to Southington to raise their families, losing our community's generational population. Lastly, on top of these concerns, and since a traffic study was not conducted as part of the planning of this project, as a neighboring town had done prior to their referendum of their new school plan, there's a concern regarding the roads and traffic leading to this new Kelly school that increases the enrollment by about 200 students to almost 500 students, most of whom would not be considered walkers. Being it will be about 2/3 of the population of the middle schools in town, and according to the ed specs that were presented, the same number of entrances, I would assume the traffic would resemble that of the middle schools every morning. Have the neighbors been informed of any of this? Have they been included or brought into any community discussions? My guess is many won't be able to get through their roads during arrival and dismissal times. Can the roads even handle this much traffic? These concerns and missing information would be important factors to make a well-informed decision. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anybody else who would like to speak tonight? Mr. Cannellan.
Hi, how are you?
Good evening.
Tim Cannellan, 79 Churchill Street. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I don't want to repeat what other people have said, but I just want to apply a little common sense here. So many of you know, so I was superintendent here for 7 years, right? I've been retired for 5. When I started here in 1980, I started as a school psychologist. My sons, who are now 45 going on 46, yes, Chris, that's true, started out in this building. In fact, this was the all-purpose room. They were at North Center School. We moved to a different part of town, and they went to Westridge/Kelly Elementary School. We actually knew Urban T. Kelly, but nonetheless, for grades 5 and 6, it's when 6th grades were in the elementary schools. And a good experience. All three of our children had a good experience in the Southington Public Schools. Our daughter, who's 11 years younger, also went to Kelly Elementary School. Kelly Elementary School looked the same when she went as it did when they went. It looked the same when they went as it did when I occasionally went over there to work and do psychological events. I was a school psychologist, so it wasn't one of my schools, but I substituted for one of our staff members who was out on medical leave, so I had some familiarity with the building. I was appointed superintendent here in 2014, so flash forward to that. I walked into Kelly Elementary School. It looked exactly the same. It looked exactly the same. So did Flanders Elementary School. So when I did my visits around town, these are buildings that were built in 1966, 1967. When Kelly did its 50-year anniversary, one of the artifacts that they produced was this advertisement that was in the newspaper. The new and improved all-electric school. Guys, I just don't think this is what we want for current conditions. We have people who can't plug in. Well, I'll give you a hard example. So we had some students who needed air conditioning in their room because they had some physical needs. You had to not use the copy machine in the teacher's room if the air conditioner was on. I mean, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about buildings that were suited for the 1960s. They're not suited for what they are now. We have wonderful teachers. We have wonderful staff. I can't say enough about the maintenance people from Board of Ed and the town side. They take really good care of all the facilities, but it's a facility issue. These schools need something different. I think this is a really good plan, and it's a plan that's been talked about for quite a long time. When I first came on here, one of the first discussions I had with Gary Brumback and with Mark Schoda, and then later with Mark, who were town managers, was what would happen if the enrollment went down and we did need to close a school. If you look at the distribution of schools, we have a lot of schools on the east side of town and not so much on the west side of town. And Flanders was always a school that was considered if we had to close a school. We've closed schools in Southington before. Holcomb School is one of them. We had other schools that we closed here as the population got smaller. That does happen. But that discussion about that was always about repurposing that. And there was a lot of talk about using it as a community center. So one other point I wanted to make, because someone mentioned about the referendum, I believe in the 40 some odd years that we've been here, 46 years we've been here, we've always had a referendum on facilities in November, and I understand that. However, this is a little unique, a different situation. If the application does not get submitted by June 30th, it pushes it off another whole year. We've already waited a long time to do something. Plans were in place in, we began this really in 1915, listen to me, 2015, 2016, yeah, I'm not actually that old. 2015, I might look it, but I'm not. 2015, 2016 school year, it was bumped back because our then Governor Daniel Malloy had this brilliant idea that he was going to pull money out of educational cost sharing grant for special ed students and was going to give that to towns in grants instead. So when the town adopted our budget, and that was a late budget adoption that year, the town adopted the Board of Ed budget without that $8.5 million in there. But what happened with the General Assembly was they ended up passing the budget as it normally had been over the last few years. So we were out. Thank God for Mark Schoda, Board of Finance, and the Town Council, because we got through that, but it pushed the additional planning off a little bit further because we had that. It was a 17-18 school year. It was a pretty bad year monetarily. And then we ran into COVID. It pushed that back. The referendum was originally going to be in 21, November of 21. So I'm just saying, we've pushed it off. Now is absolutely the right time to do it. I think it's a good plan.
Thank you, Mr. Cannella.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Good evening, Angela Loretano, 87 Hitchcock Road. I want to express my support for moving the school project forward for referendum this June. As you heard from Mr. Cannellan, we've waited long enough. I'm a Kelly Elementary parent. My daughter is currently in 2nd grade, and it'll be complete after her time at Kelly. People in town have been talking about how Kelly would be next, ever since we moved in 2012. The last elementary school project the town took on was completed in 2010 with updates to Oshana, and it's now 2026. Kelly, Flanders, and Daranowski have been waiting this whole time, and those students deserve a new, modern 21st century learning environment. The Board of Ed, along with a consultant group, has spent the last 6 years coming up with a data-driven plan to address these last 3 remaining schools. They've had countless public meetings about the plan, have presented the information in clear and accessible formats. This plan is least disruptive and most cost-effective. Kelly School is the only school in the northwest corner of town. The site, as many have said, is large enough to build on with minimal disruption to the students during construction. And I think that also goes for phase 2 for the Daranowski part of it, that the construction would be in the back of the site. The plan includes having preschool consolidated, as others have said, which leads to this higher reimbursement level at 65%, which is something new and that has come up with new legislation. This leaves phase 1 at around $30 million for the town. The project is in multiple phases to keep the town below the debt service limit throughout the duration of the project. Doing nothing would cost $25 million to address current significant issues to keep one school warm and dry. Redistricting, as others have talked about, would be completed prior to the completion of phase 1. This would minimize impacts on families by only having people potentially change schools once, where some people won't change schools at all. Some have expressed concerns about the redistricting timeline taking place before the phase 1 and are pushing the narrative of Southington students first. If redistricting plans impact their vote on this project once it gets to referendum, then I question whether they are really for all Southington students. Many of those currently in elementary schools throughout town won't benefit directly from this. However, it is important that we focus on how this plan will benefit all Southington students for decades to come. Moving forward with this plan will result in balanced utilization rates across all elementary schools, consistent commuting times, and as I said before, modern 21st learning environments for all elementary school students, no matter which elementary school they attend. The time is now. Let's not delay this any further. We have waited long enough. Move the school proposal forward to a June referendum so the town can vote. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Angela, I hope you're taking care of my child at home, you and the family.
It's also built in 1967.
That's right. My dad paid $26,000 for that house when we were 1976, I think. Still waiting for the coffee invite from you guys, though. Okay. Good evening.
Evening. My name is Shema Green. I live at 67 Memorial Drive. Before I begin, I'd like to note that I have reached out to each member of the town council over the past few weeks a couple of times, but to date, I've only received responses from 4 members. So I would like to thank Mr. Zoni, Mrs. Klock, Mrs. Gaida, and Mr. Chaplinsky for taking the time to respond. I strongly believe that communication between elected officials in the community is essential. Whether residents are sharing concerns, suggestions, or support, I hope to see continued efforts to strengthen that communication so that all members of this community feel heard when they reach out. I'm here tonight to speak about the potential referendum. I want to be clear that I understand and agree that updates are needed at Flanders, Kelly, and Daranowski elementary schools. I'm not arguing that point. However, I do believe that the plan being presented to the town of Southington does not make sense financially, academically, or logistically. I've spent a great deal of time reviewing documents related to this project. I've watched meetings, read minutes, revisited materials as this process has unfolded. In doing so, I've noticed that each time I return to the district-wide facilities committee page, additional materials appear that were not previously available. One example is a presentation to the town council from May 24th, 2021. In that presentation, the most cost-effective solution was identified as actually building new Flanders and Kelly schools and closing Daranowski. Yet in 2023, there was a long-range facilities plan. That option wasn't even investigated. It's simply completely disappeared as a potential scenario. I'm also struggling to make sense of the most recent project presented to the Board of Education and Town Council. The research used to support this plan included a Tier 1 facilities condition assessment of the 3 schools. According to that assessment, the building with the most urgent needs is not Flanders or Kelly, it's Daranowski. Yet in the current proposal, a new Kelly Elementary School would be built while Daranoski would remain as it is until possibly a 2029 referendum. That raises some important questions. If Daranoski has the greatest needs, is it safe for students to remain there for several more years? What will the cost be to maintain that building in the meantime? Are taxpayers being asked to approve a referendum with estimated costs while also continuing to fund ongoing maintenance for the building that requires the most work? Adding to the confusion is the presentation of the status quo or the do-nothing scenario. In the most recent presentation, taxpayers were told that maintaining the buildings would cost between $105.8 and $116.4 million. However, there's little explanation about what specifically would need to be repaired and when those repairs would occur. You're not asking taxpayers to refund $105 million today. So what are the actual timelines and priorities for those repairs? Why isn't that information clearly presented as part of the status quo option? There was something said by our Board of Education chair during the January 27th District-wide Facilities Committee meeting that made me pause. He stated the taxpayers are not going to go along with this unless there's some sort of even if it's a perceived savings. Because as we talked about, I mean the savings, it's a one-time savings. And the real savings is an entry-level teacher. So there's not this massive savings people think. In other words, is there no massive financial benefit? So you're asking taxpayers to approve this plan during a time when property taxes are likely increasing and when many residents are already being asked to contribute more. So why should taxpayers approve this plan? And perhaps more importantly, what's plan B if this doesn't pass? I was recently told that our neighboring town, Cheshire, successfully passed a referendum for school renovations, consolidations, redistricting, similar to what we're trying to do here. After taking a closer look at their process, the difference is striking. Cheshire created a committee that included 6 community members, along with 3 town council members and 3 Board of Education members. That committee met twice a month for the past 4 years. By comparison, our district-wide facilities committee meetings only happened 9 times over 5 years. In addition, Cheshire allocated $150,000 to that committee to hire consultants, engineers, and other professionals to assist with strategy and the plans as the committee deemed appropriate. Cheshire did it right. That's a thoughtful, transparent, and community-driven approach. Here in Southington, the town can easily give $4 million for a high school parking lot and tennis court upgrade, yet the town can't seem to invest in thoroughly researching and developing a plan for a project that impacts the entire Southington community. Each time I've spoken here, I've said the same thing. I understand these schools need to be updated, but I've also said that the community has not been meaningfully involved in this process. For a project of this magnitude, the community should have been a part of this conversation from the beginning. Transparency and collaboration do matter. Right now, it feels as though this process is being rushed rather than carefully developed with the best interest of taxpayers, schools, and most importantly, students in mind. Let's pause, let's regroup, and let's work together as a community to develop a plan that truly puts student first. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there anybody else who would like to speak tonight? Is there anybody else who would like to speak before I let the superintendent come up?
Hello, Todd Chaplinsky, 140 Washington Drive. So I apologize, some of the points I'm going to speak to I think people have covered, pretty well, but I wrote the speech, so I'm dang well going to read it. All right, so good evening, friends, neighbors, and members of our community. I'm here tonight to speak in support of the new Kelly and South End Schools referendum, not just as a proposal about a building, but as an investment in our children, our community, and our collective future. First, from a financial standpoint, the proposed project represents the most cost-effective, long-term option for the town. Approving the plan avoids approximately $25 million in future capital expenses needed to keep Flanders simply operational and reduces ongoing operating costs by consolidating from 8 schools to 7. With up to 65% state reimbursement if a new preschool wing is included in the rebuild, again, potentially 65% reimbursement from the state of Connecticut. The net cost to taxpayers for a new, fully modernized 21st century school is approximately $31 million. By contrast, spending roughly $25 million on capital improvements for Flanders would address only basic facility conditions, provide no meaningful modernization or program enhancements, and still leave the town maintaining a nearly 60-year-old building shell. For clarity, you're literally spending roughly $6 million more on a brand new school as opposed to close to the same amount for a 60-year-old structure. Despite concerns related to recent revaluation and upcoming tax increases, this project will not impact debt service for 2 years and was deliberately phased to keep total debt well below the town's 9.5% debt service threshold throughout its duration. We need to be honest about the cost of quote-unquote doing nothing. Choosing not to build a new Kelly school and keeping Flanders open doesn't mean choosing to save. It means choosing to spend more over time while getting less ROI back for both students and taxpayers. It's a fool's errand to believe that the cost to maintain a currently 60-year-old building will be cheaper over the decades versus building a modern facility that needs far less maintenance would be over the same period. The bottom line is, your taxes are going up either way. The difference is if you want new and modern for a small bit more in spend, or keeping afloat ancient, outdated buildings erected when the Beatles were peaking in popularity. This is literally a no-brainer from a financial perspective. Second, let's talk about student safety and learning conditions. Kelly School was built in 1966, erected during a time of far different enrollment levels and educational needs. Aging facilities can struggle with overcrowded classrooms, outdated infrastructure, and limited space for modern hands-on instruction. A new school allows us to design a safe, accessible, and secure learning environment that supports today's students focused on resolving tomorrow's challenges. Excuse me. Third, this referendum is about educational opportunity. Not surprisingly, education has changed. More advanced science labs, technology integration, technical maker spaces, and collaborative learning areas are no longer quote-unquote extras. They are essential to educate the workforce of today. A new school gives our teachers the support tools they need to help students succeed, where they eventually prepare for college, trade school, or the broader workforce. A modern elementary school will start them on the path to succeed in one of these venues. When we invest in quality facilities, we invest in better opportunities and thereby likely better outcomes for every student. Fourth, aging buildings demand constant repairs, creative and expensive problem solving, and temporary solutions that drain budgetary resources without addressing the core need, a modern facility. Year after year, we'll pour money into keeping these facilities functioning using quote-unquote sleek 1990s technology when they were clearly beyond their useful life. I acknowledge building a new school is not the cheaper choice today, but it is the wiser, more prudent choice for tomorrow. It allows us to start executing on delivering education for current and future student needs within a facility built to serve students well for decades. Fifth, strong schools mean a strong community. Quality schools help attract families to town, support local businesses, and protect property values. Even residents without children in the school system benefit from living in a community known for safe neighborhoods, elevated property values, and excellent education. Schools are community assets used for events, recreation, and civic life. There's also an important issue of fairness we need to acknowledge. Over the past couple of decades, community residents passed referendums that built modern, well-equipped schools that gave some students bright classrooms, updated technology, and spaces designed for success. But not every child benefited from those investments, including those in the west and northwest sections of town. Many students are still learning in buildings that never received a full rebuild or at least modern-era renovations, including everyday amenities taken for granted like air conditioning. This referendum is our chance to correct that imbalance. Every child in our community deserves the same opportunity, the same dignity, and the same message that their education matters just as much as anyone else's, no matter which school they attend. Finally, this is about our responsibility to the next generation. The students who will walk these halls didn't choose the condition of the buildings they learn in, but we can choose what we provide for future generations. We have an opportunity to leave them something better than what we inherited. This referendum is also a chance for our older residents to make a lasting difference. Many grandparents in our community may no longer have children in our schools, but they have grandchildren who may have children of their own enrolling in Kelly School. Supporting this effort means helping ensure that those children walk into a bright, safe, modern school that prepares them for the world and challenges they will inherit. It's a way to pass forward the same care, wisdom, and love that previous generations showed us by making sure the next generation has even greater opportunities than we did.
All right. You almost made it. Thank you.
Like that math guy. Remember that guy used to talk fast in commercials in the 80s?
Come to a bidding more near you.
Side effects.
Well, I definitely can't speak that fast. Seth Korn, Yorktown Road. Good evening, members of the council and fellow community members. Since speaking at several Board of Education meetings, I've been encouraged to hear that several of you have taken the opportunity to walk the halls of Kelly School. I want to thank you for doing that. It is one thing to read a facilities report or look at a spreadsheet. It's quite another to see the reality of the building through the eyes of our students and our teachers who live it every day. I believe that seeing the physical state of Kelly has or will change your perspective on why we cannot afford to delay this project any longer. Decisions of this magnitude shouldn't be made solely on a sense of tradition or history. While we honor the past, our primary responsibility is to the current and the future children sitting at all those desks. let's be honest about what is happening at Kelly. In recent years, we have seen students dismissed early because of unhealthy building conditions. Every time that happens, we aren't just losing hours, we are losing vital instructional time that our children can never get back. Furthermore, we've reached a point where physical structures on the property have had to be dismantled because they were simply no longer safe for our children to play on. This isn't a matter of cosmetic upgrades or nice to haves. This is a matter of basic safety and environmental health. I'd like to point us toward CABE and our Southington Board of Education policy 6161.3 regarding the comparability of services. This policy states, and I quote, "The Board of Education believes that all times its schools should be equally as well equipped and maintained." Right now, we are failing to uphold this policy. By allowing Kelly to fall into the state of disrepair, we are creating an educational inequity within our own district. Beyond the moral obligation, this is a legal requirement. By failing to provide comparable facilities, we are putting this district at risk of losing the state and federal funding we rely on. We cannot claim to be equally maintained while one school thrives, another literally falls apart. If you have not been to Kelly recently, I implore you, please take a tour. Compare it to other schools in town. See the gaps for yourself. There's probably buckets in the gym today with rain falling from the ceiling. The time to act is now. We need to proceed with the elementary school project and move forward with a referendum this June. Delaying further is not a neutral act. It is a choice to let our facilities continue to degrade. You are here to make decisions in the best interest of our students and town. Our teachers, our staff, and our entire community deserve a board that prioritizes the safety and their future. I will leave you with this thought. A school's history is found in its community, but its future depends on a safe, functional foundation. Let's build that foundation today. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to speak during the public hearing this evening? Good evening.
Good evening. Sarah Howard, 453 Pleasant Street. I did just want to speak for a minute. I don't have any prepared remarks, but I've just been kind of listening, taking it all in. I'm hoping that when Mr. Medancy comes back up to address any questions or final remarks, that he could speak to the condition of the schools. I did email with Mr. Medancy asking about deferred maintenance, how we got here, how Flanders and Kelly are in comparison, and what's needed in both of those schools. And in that email, he did let me know that the condition of the schools has been maintained, and the condition of Flanders and Kelly is the same at this point. Work orders have been put in, the buildings have been maintained, and this is part of why I asked why Flanders was so easily able to be repurposed into a municipal building or for use for the town. I was concerned if there was so much deferred maintenance that we'd also need to maintain that too, but I was assured in this email by Mr. Medancy that the buildings have been maintained and are in the same condition. So I'm hoping he may speak to that when he presents his final remarks. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to speak during the public hearing for the schools? Anyone else like to speak during the public hearing? Last call? Okay. Superintendent Medancy, got a few clarifying points. I took a few notes. I'm sure maybe you have a few points. You want to go down your list first?
Sure. Just to keep, I can speak to the recent email exchange I had with Ms. Howard and the condition of the buildings. The buildings are well maintained. So from, the naked eye, if you were to walk into the buildings, they're clean, they're dry. We do have roof leaks at all of our schools. It's not unique to any one school. And so that's an ongoing capital cost that, we just voted on actually this past November and approved for 3 roof replacements this summer. So with that said, the challenges we have with both Flanders and Kelly are that some of the components to the building are past their useful life. For example, the electric heating units. Each classroom has its own individual electric heating unit. And if one of those units breaks, we don't have replacement parts for them. So maintenance has to do kind of a hero's lift, if you will, to try and nurse that unit back into operating condition. Given that they're electric heat as well, there's not enough room, if you look at the height of the ceilings at the schools, the two schools, to run ductwork through them. So in terms of channeling, to improve the HVAC systems at either of those schools, that would be another hero's lift, because you essentially would have to build up the roofs of each of those schools so that you could run ductwork. And so that would be extremely cost prohibitive as well. Things like the intercom systems, the Kelly intercom system went this year. We repurposed an old high school intercom system that we've saved just in case this ever happened. And it happened because you can't get replacement parts for the intercom systems anymore. The analogy that Mr. Cannellan used of if you're running an air conditioner, you can't run a copier, that's an actual fact. That's not something that we take lightly. When the buildings were built in 1966, although they are electric heat, you'd think they'd have great electric systems, but nobody ever saw 1,000 devices in a building in 1966 all using electricity. And so, they weren't designed for that purpose at that time. Modernized spaces, I think you're hearing a lot about that tonight, that term. What that means, it's not just about, brighter colors or better HVAC systems. It's also, when these buildings were designed, they weren't designed for a lot of the specialized programming that districts provide to students today. Literacy specialists, math specialists, special education teachers, speech and language pathologists, occupational therapists. So we don't have modified spaces in those buildings that are designed with that purpose in mind. So very often you have multiple support staff members sharing a full-size classroom. And I think that's where a lot of people are getting confused in terms of the utilization rates. They say, well, there's no empty rooms. How can you have a low utilization rate? It's buildings that are rooms that are being used, but just for a different purpose than they were actually designed for. And so that's another piece that I wanted to speak to. In terms of community involvement, community engagement, Mr. Cannellan is correct. This is a plan that has been discussed for almost a decade now. 2017 was when he first launched, a committee to investigate the future of these three buildings. In 2021, it was when Mrs. Clark formed a district-wide facilities committee as the chairman or chairwoman of the Board of Education at that time. And I will say, Ms. Green made a comment tonight about the 9 times, the district-wide facilities committee meeting 9 times. That was an error on my part. I did send that out to families because I was looking at the meeting minutes I had in my district-wide facilities committee folder. When we went to the actual town website and looked at the meeting minutes that we had shared after each meeting, we met 21 times over that period of time. And those meeting minutes are now all posted on the district-wide website. They were on the town website all along. They just hadn't gotten on the district portion of the district-wide facilities page. So that was updated. In terms of the traffic study, we have not conducted a traffic study, but part of when they did the environmental design and looked at the lot, especially for the ed specs and the test fit, one thing people would know about Kelly is you can actually approach Kelly from several different directions simultaneously. There's 4 different roads that all lead to Kelly, unlike DePaulo, where there's one road, technically 2, if you count Hobart, that leads to DePaulo. So I think it's a different configuration in terms of the traffic scenario and the access to the lot. And there is even the potential on that property, as it was seen at the last Board of Education presentation on the test fit, there is even a parcel of land that we could put another access route onto the property if we needed to, as a third parcel of land that is attached to that whole property that we own. The idea of status quo and what we do is a very fair question that people are asking. That's why we did the facilities condition assessments, because in each of those reports, the person who conducted the studies for us tiered out essentially by urgency levels the order of capital improvements that would need to be made, from urgent, like now kind of thing, to tier 1, meaning within the next 3 years, to tier 2, 5 years, to tier 3, within 10 years. So what would happen, obviously, is depending on whether we're looking at 3 schools or 2, we would be tearing out the highest tiered items that were identified on those reports and working with the town to somehow integrate that into a capital improvement plan, which would all still be over $1 million. So they would all need to be bonded, and we'd be going back to referendum for that. So it's kind of like the athletic facilities referendum. It failed, and yet we're still paying for all of the repairs now 4 years later at a higher cost than we would have in 2022. And so I think people have spoken to the deferred, maintenance of the buildings. I will say Mr. Romano and his team do a tremendous job whenever we do have work orders that are submitted because things are failing. They are over there and they're closed out promptly. But there are some issues that are just beyond a general maintenance repair. They're major infrastructure upgrades that are needed. The only other piece, and I think it was spoken to, is in terms of the state process. The reason why June 2nd could help the district and the town is because the grant application, the submission deadline is June 30th. So you would not be then submitting until next June 30th. Now what happens once you submit on June 30th is there's 6 months of a review process that the state undergoes, and they announce what's called a priority list in December of 2026. And if you're on the priority list, then the following legislative session action will be taken to fund the project. If you don't submit by June 30th of this year, you're not going to be on the December priority list. So you then, now let's say even if you went to November, you wouldn't be submitting until next June 30th, so you wouldn't be on the priority list till December of 27. And so as we all know, the longer you wait with it, factoring in escalation, the more costly it's going to be, the project. So I think we're trying to get ahead of that by looking at the June date so that we can submit a grant application with an approved referendum supporting the application. It's far more likely to make the state list if you have that than not. So those were just a couple points that I wanted to clarify.
Thank you. I have a few more that I took down, if you don't mind. Sure. We'll go through a few of them. I heard 184 million. I think you addressed that a little bit earlier. The project can range from 31 to 32 million, up to 39, depending on the reimbursement. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I think the 184 million was a number used in one of the presentations for all of the projects combined over the time of
7-year plan.
But yeah, the 7-year plan, not for this referendum.
Understood. Was Flanders chosen because of lowest enrollment?
That was partially a reason. The utilization rate, it had considered what was the lowest utilization rate, but that's not the only reason. Part of it had to do with proximity to other neighborhood schools. Kelly is located in a portion of town that there are no other elementary schools, so that was a reason. The viability of the site. You could build on Flanders property a new Flanders school, but in much closer proximity to the existing Flanders school based on the shape of the site and the topography of the site, and so it was a less viable site. So when you take into account, I think, all of those factors, the utilization rate, the viability of the site, and the proximity to neighborhood schools, those were, I would say 3 of the primary factors that led to that decision.
And then that also, I guess, would also speak to why not Darrenowski?
Correct. And why not Darrenowski
Why not
first?
close Darrenowski?
Yeah, either or. So 2 pieces. The population density for Darrenowski, being a downtown school, it would be exponentially more costly to be transporting all of those students to the perimeter of the town than having a downtown neighborhood school. And I think second to that is somebody had asked why not do Darrenowski first. You wouldn't be able to redistrict at that point because you wouldn't be doing school consolidation. So that's the reason why it was put second.
One of the comments was that with Strong there were some issues and kids had to be bused. Because of some of the issues with the delays of the school and some with the project and that upgrade. I know you can't predict what's going to happen, but I guess you'll have to work some overtime.
So I think having lived through a renovate to new scenario as a principal at Kennedy and DePaulo at the same time we had done them, it's exponentially more challenging to renovate to new, especially when a school is occupied. There's a lot of state guidelines and rules essentially in terms of what kind of work can be undergone when the school is occupied versus when not. So it really spreads out the timeline exponentially longer, almost doubles the time it would take to renovate a building versus an unoccupied building. There's a lot of challenges with things like abatement and air quality. You know, obviously we're always worried about safety as a factor in terms of contractors on site and versus strangers and who's who and how are you identifying and controlling the ebb and flow of traffic. That kind of stuff that we dealt with during the middle school referendums. And I think also, you know, as I spoke to, like just the HVAC systems. So if you had to upgrade them, how would you potentially do that? If you have to raise the roof, literally, you know, not necessarily figure of speech. If you have to raise the roof, how would you replace the HVAC system at either of those schools if they're occupied? I'm not sure how that would be done. Same with the electrical. You'd have that school would have to be offline for a significant period of time in order to upgrade the electrical systems within those buildings, because the vintage of those buildings, as you all know, they're not like this room here. It's not sheetrock. It's not drywall. It's block. And so a lot of the piping and the wiring and stuff is inside of the block or up in the ceilings. When you get into those ceilings, you're now dealing with, you know, potentially hazardous materials and abatement, which again would be more costly.
Kind of two common similar questions. As a result of the proposal here, if it's approved, do you expect larger class sizes that could lead to poor behavior, special education being affected because of less time and more meetings of staff?
No, I mean, we actually, the guidelines and the sizes that I used in responding to that email, that inquiry, are what we follow today. We do have, you know, there was a comment, envision a class of 18 students. At almost every one of our elementary schools, we have 18 students in a class right now, if not 19 in some kindergarten classrooms. So that wouldn't be a new number. It might be new to that school community who doesn't have class sizes that large. What we talked about sometimes, some grade levels, I think it's a very fair point that a parent made. There are some grade levels that are larger, like just that cohort of kids coming through that school. So that does push up against class sizes. I would venture to say, even if I looked at Flanders enrollment today, one of their grade levels at least is probably up pretty close against that guideline. So it's not necessarily unique just to the new construction. And I actually have stated that's one of the pieces that I didn't want to get lost is we're going to be educating the same amount of students. It's just going to be in 7 schools instead of 8. And so even your staffing ratios still need to be maintained because you're not losing students by closing a school. You're just redistributing them.
Okay. And the teachers as well, for the most part?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. I know you talked about, I just have 2 more bullet points that I think are still outstanding. One of them you may have answered, but I'm not sure, regarding repairs to the existing schools with the status quo. Was there timelines associated with that? I know there were some estimations on the things that might need to be done, but did you have any more?
We've put some placeholders in the capital improvement plan in terms of if we need to essentially fund millions of dollars in capital deferred maintenance costs. But the actual tiered out plan, no, we haven't spent extra time on that.
Okay. And the last one is...
And I just want to elaborate on that.
Okay.
Similar to what Cheshire did, Cheshire failed the first time in 2021. Yeah. They went back to the drawing board and had a new scenario in 2022. I mean, I would envision that's what we'd have to convene, another facilities committee and start, looking at the scenarios again and determining if there's another proposal that might pass a referendum.
Right. And then the last thing, speaking of Cheshire, this is the last bullet point, there was a comment that Cheshire spent money hiring professionals to the tune of about $150,000 to help kind of guide the process and create some of the plans. Can you speak to the professionals that you hired?
Yeah, I mean, so Collier's project leaders are, they're a known state entity in terms of school construction and state assistance. They don't make their money consulting. They make their money if they become the owner's, essentially the owner's agent of the project if a referendum is passed. That's something that would still, if the town wanted to hire that, would have to go out to bid. That wouldn't be something that would go to Collier's automatically. And so there's a bidding process for that. Studio J-Ed did the facilities condition assessment. That is, it's engineers, plumbers, electricians, people that are actually in those labor industries that are looking at the major mechanicals and infrastructure and making those recommendations. The MP planning group is a group that has done the facilities study in terms of the usage and the enrollment, but also the enrollment updates, the projections. And we do have them updating them right now based on our most recent October 1st data. because as part of the grant application, that data can't be more than a year old. And so we're updating that as we speak. Based on my most recent conversation with them, the current enrollment projections aren't going to be changing all that much from what was presented in 2025.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I just want to say one last thing, just for everybody in the community. Having been 30 years in education, I've been through school consolidation as both a parent and as a principal. I've done this a lot. It's a very emotional issue. And I feel for the families that are conflicted about this in terms of the impact on their child and the pride that you have in your school community. I was assigned as a principal to an elementary school about 15 years ago that was just coming off of a school consolidation where a school was closed. They reconfigured the district, went to K2 schools and 3-5 schools in terms of the grade configurations. And they reassigned essentially 3 schools into 1 school and put me there as a new principal, knowing none of those families. There are, those typical kind of community hiccups, if you will, in terms of the growth pains that comes with establishing a new school community and your identity. By year 2, I was very proud of that school. It was called Pumpkin Delight Elementary School, believe it or not, in Milford, Connecticut. And so, yeah, people say that's a real name of a school, but it was called Pumpkin Delight Elementary School. It was emotional for families, and I do respect why people feel the way they do. They'd be wrong not to have pride in their school. I think that would be a bigger problem. So I do respect everyone who's expressing a stance and has a lot of pride in their community, is emotional about this. This isn't something that we necessarily are doing what we want to do. I think this is something we're doing that we think is the best thing to do based on the scenarios and the information we have in front of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so with that, what I will do is we will close the public hearing, and I'd like to just also say for those of you who are here, on our agenda item, we do have an item regarding action on planning and zoning. That is a placeholder on our agenda. So for the council members, we'll be looking to table that. There's no need to action that tonight. So we'll table that agenda item to accept the planning and zoning referral and put that up for a vote here. Whenever we take action on this, we can do them both on the same night. Okay? So why don't we take a 5-minute recess and let those who have come, have an opportunity to mingle for a couple minutes, and then we'll pick up on our business meeting. 23rd. We are holding the regular meeting of the Town Council. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
James Morelli.
Here.
Tony Morrison.
Here.
Christopher Palmieri.
Here.
Joshua Serafino.
Here.
David Zoni.
Here.
Jennifer Clark.
Here.
Michael Del Santo.
Present.
Kristen Gaida.
Here.
Paul Chaplinsky.
Here. Can we please all stand for the prayer and the flag salute?
Heavenly Father, give us grace tonight to understand that the impact we make upon this community is not just for today, but for the generations who will follow us. Help us to do what is right and, if need be, courageous. We commit ourselves, our decisions, and the town of Southington under your care. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, item 2, we're looking for a motion to approve the minutes of the Town Council meeting for the Town of Southington, March 9th,
I'll make
2026.
a motion to approve. last meeting.
We have a motion from Chris and a second from Dave. Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Item 3, councilperson communications. Anybody? Mrs. Gaida?
I'll go first.
Oh, sorry,
Oh, go
Tony.
ahead, no, go ahead, Tony, you go.
You sure?
Oh, sorry. I
After
didn't-
you, go ahead.
Thank you.
Yes, just quickly. Town manager and I went to Bradley Memorial Hospital this afternoon, where they were opening 3 service units there. They're taking up quite a bit of space there. First was the sleep care center. Second was the geriatric and palliative services. And finally, they refreshed their rehabilitation space. So it's great to see the use of the space at Bradley with these new capabilities. And we did have a tour of the new space, particularly the sleep care center. As you can see from these services, Hartford Healthcare is keeping up with the health issues and concerns of a gradually aging population. That's it.
Thank you, Tony. Appreciate that. Now, Mrs. Gaida.
Oh, thank you. So I just have some questions about our role on town council and just seeking clarity as one of the newer members elected. And thank you so much to the constituents for electing me to this role. So this is just in the spirit of transparency, consistency, and strong governance. My intent is not to single out anyone here on the town council, but rather to ensure that we're all aligned in our roles and responsibilities as counselors. I wonder if it's important that we revisit and reaffirm the appropriate scope of town council role. And my question would be, do we as counselors have a role in the managing of like the day-to-day municipal operations? When I'm out and about in the community, there are people who do say that they see town councilors pretty regularly down in the town hall. I'm kind of jealous because I wish I was down there, but I have to work, so I can't be down there. And then as counselors, our responsibility is governance and policy setting and oversight. So as a counselor, I would think that we don't have any direct involvement in any operational management. These are things that I take very seriously, and I'm mindful to not interject myself into areas that fall outside my role as a counselor. There have been discussions too when I'm out in the community that some are concerned that some council members interact with departments that could be perceived as possible operational interference. Council people have participated in negotiations of contracts. There was a tour that I wish I got to be a part of, but I didn't know was happening, where a elementary school was toured, and minority party representation wasn't there. I think that would have been neat to see. I just wish that we, as the parties, can work together cohesively for the common good of the town. For equity and consistency, I just wish that the opportunities and interactions being offered consistently to all counselors that we're all being made aware of these engagements as they're happening. And as I said, I'm excited to be elected to represent our town in this capacity. So I just wonder, do we have any expectations in how we conduct ourselves in these areas? That's all. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Anybody else? Jen? Madam Vice Chair.
Yes, thank you. So earlier today, I had forwarded the council a couple of emails that you have. During our last meeting, there was a reference to an email regarding an open position within the town's youth services department. The discussion that took place on the dais was somewhat vague, which prompted me to request that the town manager share that email, and in the interest of transparency, that communication has now been provided to all of you. As was mentioned in the last meeting, Councilwoman Gaida sent an email to the hiring committee. So it's interesting that you say you don't want to be involved in the operations. You sent an email to the hiring committee suggesting that a particular applicant would be an amazing fit for the position. To my knowledge, this was unprompted by the hiring committee. I want to be clear, this is nothing to do or is not about whether anyone agrees or disagrees with that recommendation. I am raising the issue because I have a serious concern about political involvement in town staff hiring practices and the potential legal implications such involvement creates for our town. The concern is significant for two reasons. First, fair hiring practices require that all candidates be evaluated equally. Political influence, real or perceived, can create an unfair advantage for one applicant over others and may expose the town to legal challenges, particularly from individuals in protected classes. Second, the act of sending such a communication likely and sadly, unintentionally, compromise what may have otherwise been a legitimate opportunity for that candidate. I raised similar concerns previously regarding involvement in staffing decisions, and I will reiterate them now. This type of engagement risks overstepping appropriate boundaries. The culture we promote must align with our actions. Over the past 2 years, the town manager and staff have worked very hard to build a professional environment grounded in teamwork, respect, and clear policies. I am asking that we support and not undermine those efforts. We all share a responsibility to focus on the significant work before us, including managing one of the largest budgets in the town's history, and that responsibility requires professionalism, restraint, and a commitment to appropriate roles. In that same spirit, I also requested a separate communication from a Board of Finance member seeking resumes of current employees within the town's Human Resources Department, specifically that department alone, no others. While the Board of Finance has authority over budgetary decisions, including positions, it does not extend to access individual personal records for that purpose. No position cut from the Board of Finance should come on the basis of a member's opinion on the quality of the person filling that position, but rather the necessity of the position itself. Again, this is not about taking sides or personal opinions about individuals. This is about ensuring that we operate within appropriate boundaries and avoid actions that could be perceived as self-serving or inconsistent with our responsibilities. We were elected to act in the best interests of the entire community. My concern is that these recent actions suggest a deviation from that, and that is troubling for the future of our town. My final request is that we take a step back, reset, and recommit to working collaboratively on what matters most, our residents and their future. At our last meeting, a resident asked us to do better. I believe that statement referred to these exact types of acts. We must hold ourselves to a higher standard, focus on our shared responsibilities, and prioritize the well-being of our community above all else.
Okay, anybody else want to speak during councilperson communications?
Can I speak to that email that was sent? So I would love for that email, since Councilwoman Clock had mentioned it, to be submitted into the meeting minutes. That would be amazing. My point of the email was to congratulate them on making Kratom, or helping to make Kratom, a Scheduled 1 illegal substance, meaning it has no medicinal purposes. And I said that that is an amazing feat that is extremely hard to do. That person should be celebrated. The work that this individual does is amazing. And I was just merely saying all of the accolades that they do. And I said they would be a good candidate for the job since they're already in the role. And it was literally just that and nothing more. So we can print the email and have it sent in for the meeting minutes.
I can submit it now. I've redacted the
Oh,
names.
that's perfect. Thank you.
I think the issue just comes on the heels of another member of the town council prior to your email asking about the same position and the same person that you wrote the letter to. And prior to yours, just days prior to yours, another town council person asking for the final interview pool to be expanded to include the same candidate that you were asking and providing a reference for. So whether you knew that or not, I think the perception, as Vice Chair Clark mentions, the perception of interference in the hiring process, for which you are one of 9 members who oversees the town manager to reach down into the organization and try to influence or to influence by way of an email the hiring practices of the town manager when he was in the middle of that, I think is what Councilwoman Clark is saying we need to work on. And I would just encourage all of us to work together here a little bit because, you know, this council has worked since this town manager has been put in place to really, really hire good people. And he's done an outstanding job. He got an outstanding review at his last review, trying to bring good talent in. And, you know, recognizing that we had some retirements, we had some changes, some structural changes that you know, he worked through. And now we have an organization that I believe is well functioning. And I think some people are sensitive to the fact that political pressures can cause problems with that. And so I think really focusing, looking forward and trying to, as you said a little bit earlier, Councilwoman Gaida, what is our role? Maybe I would encourage everybody on this dais to reach out to the town attorney, if you haven't done so since being elected. Review the town charter to find out what your role as a council person is and what your role as a council person isn't. And, you know, maybe the same also for the other boards as well, so that it's clear. And so that we don't make these mistakes if they are mistakes. So, okay. Any other?
Can I speak again? So I had no idea about any sort of email exchange. You can FOIA my email, which is fine. I was merely just speaking on behalf of the staff member being on the STEPS board. So I've been on STEPS since 2012. I know how STEPS works. And the last meeting, as I said, when I spoke at the last council person communications, STEPS is falling apart. They're losing hope. There's no one leadership. It is, as I said before, a position that is in the budget that is unfilled. And I was in no way, shape, or form trying to interject myself into any sort of hiring process. It's kind of like when someone is doing a good job, you congratulate them, right? We always hear the negativity and the negative things that go on, but never the kudos. And then just one other thing, if we're talking about roles. So it's okay for council people to go and like tour schools with other department heads to look at like repurposing things without including other council people?
Yeah, I don't see why that would be a problem. You can ask, you can seek a legal opinion if you would like. Feel free to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, I just want an opportunity.
Vice Chair.
I just want to follow up on why I'm bringing this up, because I think that the past 2.5 years that I've sat on this board, and I'll just speak for myself, I've been an adamant supporter of STEPS. We can review the minutes. I've continuously given STEPS, you know, accolades and promoted, and, you know, as has Chris, as have numerous people. It has nothing to do with the program. It has everything to do with fair process and hiring. And it's different if you were not an elected official. You are elected by the residents, and now the town manager and that department reports to the town manager and therefore reports to you. So sending an email recommending someone for the job is putting unfair privilege on that person. And also, by sending the email, you are disqualifying that person from getting the job now. So it's not just giving compliments, it's interfering in the fair hiring process. The town could be sued because if there was a person in a protected class that applied for that job and they were not offered the job and then your email came out, you're now putting the town in a state of litigation or possible litigation. That is the point.
Chris, did you want to say something?
First of all, thank you for clarifying, because at the last meeting, I wasn't planning on talking about this, but I did ask to extend an interview to the interim candidate fulfilling the position. It's equal opportunity to the other applicants, not taking away from any other applicants. So just to clarify that point from the last meeting. Second of all, on a positive note, to build off of what Tony was saying, I was not able to attend the Hartford Healthcare opening today, but I just want to give a shout out to Hartford Healthcare. I remember sitting here, I'm not sure, Paul, you might have been here, Mike, you might have been, I don't remember how far back. It's
Very
Vicky, I know
close.
you certainly were, who's out in the audience. But to see where we are today, when we were at a point talking about possibly losing the facility and losing our heart of the downtown, our hospital, I just want to thank Hartford Healthcare for investing in that site, adding new facilities there that's going to benefit the entire community. I think that's huge. So I'd like to thank them for their leadership in the medical needs of Southington. So I appreciate that. At the last meeting, I want to enter this into the record as well. I reached out to the finance director because we were talking about the fund balance level. This was in relation to a topic we were voting on. And we talked about where the fund balance level should be set. We talked about what practice we should use to set that fund balance level. So this is just a communication. It really is just to clarify the actual fund balance guidelines for general fund, and it's from the government GFOA, Government Finance Officers Association. So within this document that I received from the finance director, it does outline that the recommendation is that no less than 2 months of regular general fund operating revenues are in the undesignated fund balance. So I'd like to submit that just to clarify, because I know we talked about that. It wasn't just something Googled, but it was actually something researched from the last meeting. And finally, just a thank you, a shout out to WTIC 1080. They broadcast live from Southington at Mama's House Family Diner, and really just brought attention to a lot of the great things happening in our community. The Apple Harvest Festival, the drive-in, and it's really nice to see Southington getting notoriety for the good things we do, because we really do have a fantastic community.
Thank you, Chris. And I was chuckling when you made your comment about not the Google, because I did have a sidebar with Mr. Zoney, Councilman Zoney. I did apologize. I did not intend to say it. I said it, and I apologize. It shouldn't have. I shouldn't have said the Google search. I did not recall what the government agency was. So my apologies again to you, Dave. We're good friends, so I'm glad that you accepted that.
It's your supposition.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Chris, and I don't want to keep going on it. I want to do we talked about clarifying the situation. My biggest concern, and Councilwoman Clark too, with respect to your email, it's really the similar thing. When the hiring manager and HR make a recommendation on who's going to a final candidate pool for final interviews, and they made the decision and they invited us to that, and you asked to expand the pool, and they said no, we should have left it there. But you came back and asked again in another email, and then after that other email, you pulled me aside after the end of a meeting showing me the person's resume to continue to lobby to include this person. it's just uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for me and the rest of the counselors as leaders here, because I do honestly feel that actions like this put not only the town manager in an uncomfortable position, because, you know, the town manager has to balance between accepting a recommendation from their leaders as to who goes and who doesn't, and accepting a recommendation from his superior to include somebody, and it's not an appropriate position to be in. And, you know, I think it's best practice. I said it in my email. I don't think we should get involved in the micromanagement of the practices. Councilwoman Guida said that. How much do we get involved? We have to trust the manager. We have to trust the manager's staff. And, you know, you might be right. It might be that the person that you're talking about and that Ms. Guida is talking about, maybe they end up were the best qualified person. I don't know that. What I will say is, if the town manager and their department head in HR and an independent person who was from another town did the interview and they got it wrong, then they own it. Because we can't be involved in all of that. They're responsible for managing the town. And so that's my only request is let's just, you know, let's ensure that we are considering the fact that when we make these requests, that there's other people involved who worked hard to get us to that point. And by usurping that, it undermines their the work that they did. That's all.
Only to clarify one
Sure.
point, I didn't share her resume.
No, you showed me her resume.
No, I didn't. So that's what I want to be clear about. I showed an example of the work done within the department. So I did not pull up a resume. So I think
Okay.
you said that twice now. So I think that's important. I didn't do that.
Fair. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Can I clarify something on that topic and then I'll be done?
Okay, yes.
So in terms of the hiring process, it's not a department head level position. So how come town council members get involved? And why wouldn't it be members of the actual like board itself, like the executive board? Why wouldn't they?
That's a good question. In this case, and Chris can probably attest to this. I don't know, maybe he was involved in discussions before me, but I wasn't involved. But I think, you know, Chris is involved in STEPS, and he was looking for a representative to do a final interview from STEPS and from council. And so the town manager asked a member from each party, the chair, the minority leader, also a leader of STEPS to have some input in the final interview. I'm assuming that was the rationale, but Chris and I just received an email from the town manager saying, hey, we have 2 candidates. Would you guys be willing to do a final interview and give us your thoughts? And that's, yeah, sure.
So, for the record, STEPS is not connected to the town of Sullivan in any
That's right.
official capacity. So it's not a STEPS position. It's not a, there is no input. But as a courtesy, at the last term, there was some conversation on the dais about, hey, let's have a STEPS representative there just to kind of give some insight, some feedback, because the position does support the STEPS board. So that was the original genesis from having a member. And I believe the chairman and Mr. Palmer, I'm not sure, but I believe they spoke and it was, okay, let's have a member from each party as well as, and Chris was the STEPS quote unquote representative. So
on the council.
in great point, Mrs. Guida, this is one of the lower positions. So normally we would not do this, but I think everybody, HR, myself, realized while it may not be a director level position, it's a very important position, especially to our community and our youth. So we wanted to make sure we did it really well. We wanted to make sure we found the right person and involve just some additional stakeholders.
I think your term was it's a very public-facing position.
Absolutely.
I think that's how you phrased it.
Okay, good dialogue. Thank you. Appreciate the discussion on that from all parties. Anybody else on council person communications? Okay, I'll finish on one last thing. I had a quick conversation with the police chief. Many of us are aware of the paving projects going on with the water department, especially in the Berlin Street area, and some of the closures in the fall of last year and the winter of this year. We've received a lot of feedback about the road being closed and the detours, and it was closed for some months, and we're looking at a couple more months, maybe a month and a half or 2 months to the town manager, if
I believe
May, June?
we should be done before school is out. That's
Right.
the goal.
And so I had just asked the police chief, I said, hey, can you give me something for the council to talk about here? Because we have been getting some community feedback about, is it possible to open the road a little bit, even if it's just partial? And let the council know if there's any action. So I had put a placeholder on here for us, whether we wanted to take action. It turns out that he's not recommending any action, but I'll tell you what he did. He had a conference call with the water department and the state DOT Friday. He asked me to pass along a brief update during councilmatic communications, and he said they're well aware, of the desire to keep the road open as much as possible. And different than the last time, what they're going to try to do is they're going to try to, depending where the work is being done, this one's a little more tricky because the water main is on one side of the road. It's on the south side of the road, and they're making connections on the north side of the road. So they're basically taking up the whole road to make laterals and cutting the road. So they said, to the greatest extent possible, they're going to try to detour cars through the neighborhoods, if possible, off of Berlin Street. When it's not possible because the neighborhood is part of the excavation, only the local traffic, the people who live there will get there, or people go into the business. And then they will also try to do some evening times this time to see if they can do some work. I think they said 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. or something. I can't remember. 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. There's a downside to that as well. So depending where the work is being done, you're talking about construction work outside somebody's home possibly. So they have to be careful about that as well. So they're going to try to juggle the inconvenience, try to do some night work when possible. Yes, they still will have to close the road periodically, but they're going to do their best to be mindful of it and to make the road as passable as possible, especially for those who live there and the businesses. So that was the update that I received from the chief. Okay, we'll move on to item 4, reports of special committees, ordinance review. Mr. Morrison.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, we had 5 items to report on at the Ordinance Ordinance Review Committee meeting. First was e-bikes follow-up. We have a structure that comes from state legislation that tells us how these vehicles fit in to traffic requirements and how they're viewed essentially by enforcement as well. There were 2 open items on this. One was they're both scooters. The e-scooters are treated as e-bikes according to the legislation, and it is helmet laws are mandatory on those as well. So that answered our question. We talked briefly about enforcement concerns. Should we do something different? Police representative was of the opinion that no, they had things covered at this time. And if when the summer turns around and if we find out there are things we have to do, then we'll have to do it. So we moved off it to that time. Secondly, graffiti on town property. We didn't take any further action on that because if there is vandalism, which there was from the Chalkins last time, there was one issue, then it will be handled under law enforcement, not under a town ordinance. Okay, we discussed the instant response cost recovery, which is where do we go about looking into whether if fire department vehicles are used in accidents in town, the EMS stuff, whether we should, and the accident is caused by somebody, that there's a fault, at-fault driver, we go after the insurance company for a fee. Won't be a lot, but it'll be enough. So the data we wanted, which was other towns doing it in Connecticut, how much would it actually bring in extra to the town, those kind of issues. The person who put that forward to us wasn't available. He will be next meeting, and we'll take up the discussion then. The signs. This came out of Public Works and the last council meeting, where people are putting up signs on poles and things. It really is littering, because obviously they don't have any right to do it. That's is covered under zoning enforcement, but there's so many of them that obviously the zoning enforcement officer can't get around to them. So we discussed something what we could do, and we put it off for a month pending a look at how other municipalities were dealing with this issue, and to see if there's anything we can learn from that before we go ahead with this.
Tony, can I make a
Yes,
comment
sorry.
on the signs one?
Sure.
I received a note from Mr. Riccio, the parking authority, a week ago, somewhere in the last week. But he basically said that he had called one of the the lawn signs, you know, the
Lawn
wire
signs.
signs that you put in.
Right.
They're littered around the town. And he said that the company who was advertising on the lawns all over the place said that they didn't care if they were breaking the rule because the sign costs 50 cents. So you could take them as many as you want and they'll just keep going back out. So, maybe there's some sort of a practical approach. I don't know if it's a fine after a certain number of violations or what the best practice is, but appreciate that you're looking into that.
Yeah, we did discuss the lawn signs as well, obviously.
Deputize us.
What?
Start grabbing signs.
You know, there are a lot of them, and also there's an issue with they can be legal on somebody's property.
Right.
So you have to
Yes.
determine that first before
John's
you
gutter on 14 telephone poles in the same neighborhood.
can...
On the
that's
school
different.
properties.
Well, that's different.
It's littering.
All right. Well, more to come on that next month. All right. So, okay. This is an interesting one. It's to do with somebody who lives next to a metals company that essentially has trucks coming in at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, and they're heavy trucks and they use air brakes. So a person made a complaint to the town manager. It came down to the town council attorney, came down to us on the ordinance committee. And the interesting thing is that we have a noise ordinance. So the person complained under the noise ordinance. But the noise ordinance, as our town council attorney pointed out, is actually unenforceable. And the reason is, when it was first brought in 1993, you had to have DEEP, the State Department of Environmental stuff, they had to approve it. They never did. So in a sense, we have an enforcement that we just found out, an ordinance that is just unenforceable. Now, in looking at upgrading this, in 2022, the state brought in new legislation on noise ordinances, and it said DEEP did not have to approve it. So we can go ahead and create an ordinance. However, the ordinance we have, we can't use, because the state also said you cannot, I'll read this, you cannot legislate against trucks, against moving vehicles, trucks, automobiles, motorboats, stuff like that. And there's also other reasons in the sense that there's federal regulations on trucks, such as why air brakes are used. So we're sort of stuck, with the person who made the noise request. I sent him an email saying what we discussed. But essentially, we need to bring up a noise ordinance. By the way, sorry, before I go on to that, the police did use their mediation capacity with the resident and the company to sort of say, look, can we see if we can work this out between us? And they're doing that right now. But in terms of the noise ordinance, we have to come up with a different noise ordinance, one that is suitable for us. And the town council attorney is working on that, and we'll see it at the next meeting. And that's it, unless Josh or Chris? Oh.
Dave, question?
Yeah, just a quick question on the e-bike situation and the scooter situation. Is the ordinance going to give the police any power to impound these vehicles?
Well, there is no ordinance for that. We're using the state legislation, essentially, and the police are going to enforce it. They don't think that's a good use of their time. So So that's where that was left, okay? In terms of the thing they did say they are vulnerable in terms of law enforcement in the sense that they cannot chase people, okay? And that's to do with state legislation. So, you know, if you've got a group of kids and they come riding through town, the police essentially can't chase them. So that's a vulnerability that we may see in the summer, and that's why we'll maybe look at it again in the summer, see where we are.
It seems to be more problematic in the parks.
Yeah,
I spend a lot of time at Rec
I
Park
agree,
watching,
I agree.
walking dog, and the kids just come through there. It's a public road, you know, it's Maxwell Drive, and really they shouldn't even be on it if the vehicle has enough power to you know, and they don't have the driver's license, so.
So
Chris.
Just to add to that, we did talk about it. We talked about, should we move forward with an ordinance? Do we want to maintain status quo? And we did agree that we'll revisit it if the need arises. Captain Armack will bring it back to us. So we didn't fully close the topic, but we're certainly going to keep an eye on it through the police reports to see if there's a need.
The trail is problematic as well.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
not even supposed to have a motorized vehicle on the trail, but they're going down the trail.
Okay, any other questions on ordinance? All right, hearing none, move on to item B, apple harvest. Chris?
Sure, we had a meeting on Wednesday, March 11th. A couple of items were acted on at that meeting. We moved forward with our electrician for the 2026 festival. That's Tom Bussett. I'd like to thank him. He agreed to maintain his current rate, which is very reasonable for the town, so no change, so therefore we did not have to go out to bid for that. I'd also like to thank and acknowledge Jerry Limmer, who is our stage assistant. The committee voted to award him that position again. He also agreed to return with no increase in his fee for the services he provides. We also, something I hope will benefit the town as well as the festival itself. We're looking to permanently mount, and this was really due to a safety concern, permanent speakers on Apple Alley as well as up on Riccio Way. During the festival itself, it's very hard. We had no way to make permanent announcements. This past festival, 2025, we brought in rented speakers, so we don't want to keep spending this expense year after year. So we're looking to install something permanent. There would be 3 speakers permanently installed. Dave Norris, through engineering, is critical for that. I want to thank him. What we're doing right now, we're seeking request for proposal, so we can get at least 3 quotes, so we can make a decision on who to move forward with the project. Part of it is complicated because we're talking about running potentially a line over Route 10, obviously to get back to the trailer itself. So again, hopefully that'll be something beneficial for even music.
I heard the superintendent may have one from the old School Street intercom. It's 2 cans
I
and a
don't know
piece of
about that. string.
You could do it that way.
I don't know about that.
Like Grease? Chris, before you go on.
Sure.
Can you please, since we're talking about town property,
Yeah.
can you please make sure that comes to council for review? And if it's going to be affecting the parking lot, we probably need to involve the parking authority.
No, are you talking about the speakers?
Riccio Way, if you're going to put something in the parking lot.
Oh, well, it would be mounted up. It
Right.
would be in the, like on the pole. It
So if
wouldn't
it's
be-
going, but if it's in the lot, then the parking
Sure.
authority would
We
just.
can bring it back,
But
yeah.
also, town council, since it's town property, we should just get a quick look at it and approve whatever the project is.
No problem, we'll bring
Okay,
it back here. Like I
thanks.
said, it's gonna go through town staff anyway, so we'll bring it here. Okay, and then the last thing we did, to really move us forward, is we approved the booth fees for 2026, and we approved the craft fair fees for 2026. We made no change to those fees. So with that, the applications are now available on the website. There's different rate structures depending on whether you're a nonprofit or a business or a food truck. But all that information is now live on the website for applications for the 2026 festival. And again, we did not make any changes to those.
Okay, any questions on apple harvest? Okay, hearing none. Item C, sewer. Tony?
Oh, it's me again. We have three issues. The first is sewer lining. We've done $1 million worth of work on the sewer lining. That's lining the sewer pipes in town so that they'll stay excellent for another 50, 100 years. We've done most of the old borough, which is the old part of town, and we're dealing with the pre-1980 pipe, of which we've done about 43%. So we allocated another $400,000 for this. I think if you don't do this maintenance, nobody will ever see it, right? We'll understand it if you're on the sewer committee, but nobody's ever going to see it. Unless something bursts near you and, you know, you get a nasty surprise in your house. But you have seen where we did look at the recent Potomac River spill, which was probably one of the worst environmental disasters this century, in the sense of the amount of sewage that was put into the waterway, which isn't just unpleasant, but it kills all kinds of life downstream. So we added 400K. We can add another 400K if we so decide, but we're not going to allocate that as yet because we've got another issue with the PCB remediation project, which is now coming to fruition. We got the bids out. And the PCB remediation is just PCBs that are on the site that was turned up when we redid the sewer plant a few years back. And we have to get rid of it. We have to remediate it, some, or cover up others. It's estimated to be between $1 million and $3 million worth of work. But that's our estimate. We haven't got the bids back yet. So if the project comes in like about 2 million or under, we'll have enough money in our reserves. And by reserves, I mean the amount over the minimum that we keep. We're just like the town, we don't keep 2 months' worth, but we keep a year's worth of $6 million. And we have 1.5 million above that that we can use on, we're sort of being used in, setting aside for this project. But if it comes in at more than 1.5, we'll use the 400K that we otherwise spend on the lining. And by the way, if we have to use more, the minimum, we'll pay it back the same way the town will pay back if we ever went below the minimum in the minimum reserves that we keep. It's exactly the same mechanism. Okay, one other thing, the project may not start until November, even though we might be ready, because tree cutting is, unless we cut all the trees down by mid-April, beyond that time, we will need to do an acoustical survey to see if we have any tricolour bats in those trees. And if we do, then we can't do anything until the reproductive cycle is over, which will be November. And the reason being is because DEEP has made it an endangered species, so we have to treat it as such. So that's it for PCB remediation. We really want to get this out of the way, but hey, you have to do what you have to do. Finally, we had an issue with a homeowner earlier this month needed a repair to a septic system within the sewer service area. So the guy had a septic system, but it's within where we ask people to hook up to sewers. He said if we asked him, to hook up to the nearest sewer, he would sell his house because he would have to pay $50,000? It was a huge amount because he's on a back lot. And the nearest sewer line was at least 400 feet away, in fact more. So what our engineer suggested, rather than, there's a few other people in this situation as well, by the way. So rather than causing people to sell their houses, we decided, our engineer suggested adding language to our processes so this doesn't severely penalize homeowners in that situation. And it would be as simple as changing the sewer form and changing the ordinance, which deals with sewer availability. And the language would be this. It means we wouldn't force you to change if you were over this requirement. And that requirement would be public sewers shall be within 50 feet of the subject's property lot's frontage, or requiring less than 200 feet as measured from the public sewer to the building drain. In other words, anything above that, which would really severely penalise the homeowner, we wouldn't require you to do it. But if it's below that, we would. And we voted on that, both for the form and the ordinance. So this will go to the ordinance committee next month, and hopefully we'll vote on that there too. So that's it.
Thank you, Tony. Any questions on sewer update? Okay, item D, EMS. Kristen.
The EMS committee met on March 19th. Unfortunately, I was not able to be in attendance. I was out of state at a medical mission. So Bill Palmieri provided some notes reviewing the 2025 calendar year. So in 2025, there were 7,028 EMS calls compared to 7,269 in 2024, resulting in a decrease of 241 calls for service. The committee noted that these fluctuations in annual call volume are typical and do not indicate a trend, as EMS demand is inherently variable. There were 339 overload incidents in 2025, which represented 4.82% of the total calls, defined as times when demand exceeded available contracted ambulance resources. The fire department provided support in approximately 52% of these incidents when needed. And then overall, 2025 was a successful year for EMS service delivery here in town. The EMS committee remains committed to ongoing oversight and collaboration with all stakeholders to ensure continued delivery of consistent and quality EMS services to the community. And then the ongoing work would be that the EMS contract development remains in progress. AMR is continuing to honor a previous contract as there is no contract in place currently. There's continued analysis of call volume patterns to align staffing with peak demand, and then the ongoing monitoring of response time, performance, and compliance. So, and then I'll submit this to the record.
Excellent, thank you. Any questions regarding EMS? Okay, hearing none. Item E, America 250. And we have former council chairwoman and pastor Victoria Triano, and she's got her America sweater on today as well. Thank you for coming. We are excited to hear what's going on with America 250.
I am very excited. And by the way, I think this has been a very good meeting, just saying. But we've been meeting since the end of December, and we have about 30 members on our Celebrate America 250 Southington style, and great things are going on. I first of all want to thank DJ Voisin from the rec department. He has been so conscientious and so good. He's got the resources to find the right person or the right band or whatever. And I have an announcement that Paper and Fire is a band who's a John Mellencamp tribute band. And they're going to be playing on the 1st for our Wednesday Music on the Green. July 1st. And that night, we're also going to have many tables and everything out there celebrating America. It's going to be great. I want to also thank the Main Street Foundation, the Calvin East Foundation, and I'm talking now to Hartford Healthcare. Thank you for acknowledging them because they're really doing a wonderful job here in town. And they've all made promises. We have over $7,000 in our coffers. We still need some more for the fireworks. Fireworks are very expensive, especially on the 4th of July. The Board of Education, Colleen Clark is on our committee, and they have agreed to make a June, I can't remember exactly the date. It's a date in June when all the schools are going to be celebrating America in their own way and their own style. We have Pastor Ron Brown, who's the head reaching out to churches and clergy. Every church in Southington, every place of worship in Southington is going to do their own style of worship and in their church as they see fit, and that's going to be wonderful too. But really, which is new to everything, the SOCA is having a special pottery sale that they have every year. But this year, they're doing it on the green. And they've asked us to take half the green. They're doing it on one end of the green. We're going to be doing the other half. We have a fife and drum corps coming in from East Haddam, I believe. We're trying to get the Jeepers in. Do you know the Jeepers? They all have Jeeps.
Oh, yeah.
Hence the Jeepers, right? With flags and celebrating America, and we're trying to get them in. We're in negotiations right now. But we are having one great summer. We're starting in early June. Actually, we're starting on Memorial Day, that the American Legion hopefully is going to have something special on Memorial Day, as well as the Memorial Day services. Also, the American Legion is going to be doing something on Flag Day, which is June 14th. But listen, I could go on and on. You've been here too long. So listen, right? We have, right? So, but I would tell you this, that we are trying to get as many folks involved as we can. And because it really is very exciting. And so tonight, I want to make sure that everybody on the dais is a part of the Celebrate America 250. And so you are honorary members of the committee, and you get your badge. But on one condition, you have to come out, you have to support us. You have to come to something, just be a part of it, right?
Victoria, is it true that you're going to be singing Jack and Diane?
Thank you.
Little ditty, sucking on a chili dog outside a Tasty Freeze.
Thank you so much.
He's got his hands between your knees. Victoria. There's song lyrics. Blame me, it's John Cougar when I was coming up.
Yeah. So listen, we're doing great. We hope we
These
have
are
another
beautiful,
meeting on the 31st in a week, or a little over a week. And we'll have our first calendar put together. It's a fluid thing, but we're working on it. And so I want to thank you all for all your help, your vision. If you have any ideas, if you, one of the areas, if you're looking at this on television, if you belong to a social service group, if you are, by the way, the Veterans Committee are all coming, it's going to be great. But if you're part of Kiwanis or the Elks or Rotary or something else, and you would like to get involved on the 20th of June at the section of the green, we're going to have Speaker's Corner with people giving a little speeches, 10-minute speech, something about the revolution, and people dressed in costume. But there's space for our social service organizations who every day work behind the scenes to promote goodness and help those that are in need in our town.
Victoria, is there fundraising? Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
You know what? Some of the nonprofits have asked that, and we don't mind if they have a raffle or a drawing or something like that. So there's going to be a little bit of fundraising there.
Please let us know if there is, because we could,
Oh, thank you.
I know fundraising is
I would
difficult,
just love it if
but-
you all could be a part of it.
course.
So, when you see something, just go on down people want to see you. 'Cause you're the town council, right? So they want to see you. And also, just as on a personal note, we won't see each other until after Easter. And so God bless you guys who celebrate Easter, and
Buona Pascha.
and thank you very much. Are there any other questions?
My only request is maybe to the town manager, can we just connect with Chair Triano and just see if we can get a list of some of the activities and dates and ensure that we have them on our calendar?
Yeah, we're going to make sure, Mr. Chairman, that we have a regular formal calendar set up so that people can go on our
Thank you.
website and see what's going on. As I said, the schools are going to do one activity throughout the whole schools, and I believe that was on June 4th, I think, but I'm not sure. I'm going to double check all that before I give it to you, Alex, and then that way we can do a website, or not even a website, just a letterhead or whatever. So-
Getting some head shakes, yes, in the back there of June 4th.
Yeah. Okay, good. We want you. Okay, anything else?
Any other questions? Thank you, Madam
I need
Chair.
to excuse myself because I need to go home now.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay, item 5, Town Manager's Report and Communications. A, Report of the Board of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The two parts to this report, the first official part is that the board met March 13th at 4:30 on a Friday afternoon to schedule a public hearing for the public hearing that you just had. So they'll be having a public hearing 6:30 this coming Wednesday on the school referendum, proposed school referendum project. If you think this meeting is late, well, the Board of Finance has been working overtime the last 3 weeks. It's no surprise this budget's been tough. Last 2 years, they've had 2 budget workshops, possibly 2.5. We've been through 4 budget workshops, and they've scheduled an additional public board workshop tomorrow night, 6:30 as well. Unprecedented, we've never had this many before, but they are working very, very, very hard to balance the needs of the community and the ability of the taxpayers to pay for those needs as well. So they're doing a great job, and they will be voting on their budget this Wednesday, this week. Any questions on that?
Questions on the Board of Finance? Okay, item B, public hearing for the proposed 2026-27 Town of Southington budget.
So this is actually, there's been discussion on it already, it's been posted, but I just wanted to formally notify everybody that the public hearing has been posted for April, I want to say 6th. And I believe Mr. Chairman is going to have it be continued, possibly till the next meeting, in case some folks can't make it. And it's
Yeah.
going to be televised and recorded, the whole 9 yards.
I think we're the first week of May is when we have to make our decision. So we have some time to have a couple sessions. And any other questions on the public hearing? Item C, Flanders sidewalk.
This one comes up every few years. This is, if you're new to the town council, there's been many, many years of folks who've made requests to sort of complete the corridor from Southington High School to call it Stop and Shop for the Queen Street area on Route 10. A year and a half ago, town staff was tasked with determining what the viability would be for the town to install, pay for sidewalks on that road to kind of complete the last portion of it. There is a memo in your packet. This is information only. I'm not asking for any action whatsoever. It's just in case the town council wants to revitalize this project. There is a little bit of taking that's necessary with it. There's one permanent easement at 228 Flanders Street. It's about 35 square feet. Without that, the project's not viable. And then there's some temporary easements that are required on 4 additional properties as well. Happy to answer any questions on it. Again, this is informational in case folks wanted to take it up more seriously. We can give a formal plan, but I didn't want to let that go by the wayside.
If I can, I'd like to state it a little bit differently. I don't think it's optional. The council actually voted, our last council voted to complete this sidewalk, including, I think Chris was even one of the people talking about driving this, was it you, Chris? The CLMP portion between Stop and Shop and the pharmacy. There is an area there that people walk on and it's not paved.
Well, no, it was Eversource.
Eversource.
And they didn't want to plow.
They didn't want to maintain it, right?
Maintain it in
But that doesn't,
winter, and
but that was part of us also getting it paved, right? So now we actually did pave, the last season, we paved from Beacon Pharmacy up to Southington Power Sports. There's some segments there, a couple segments that were done. So we did do that. We completed the segments. The last segment that's not completed is from the eastern portion of Southington Power Sports property there to Darling Street. So there's like 5 houses. And so those were all approved to do by the last council. So if we decide we don't want to do that, we should take a decision to not do that. That's all. So this is a first read. It's just information only. I'd like everybody to digest it a little bit, and we should have some discussions about this maybe in the next couple months. Go ahead, Chris.
so just because we're talking about it, I've shared with the town manager, I've had residents reach out about Pleasant Street on the east side of Pleasant Street. Residents asking about continuing the sidewalks because there is sidewalk on the west side of Pleasant Street, but it is not continuous. So I don't know if we can poll the neighbors just to find out who's interested or not interested in putting in those, because as we know, it is the property owner's responsibility to maintain those sidewalks. But I've had people reach out just for, transportation to school concerns, kids walking down that path on Pleasant Street.
And do you mean between Pleasant and DePaulo?
There's like, I want to say there's 3 or 4 houses only that are not paved on, and there is a crosswalk. However, there's no crossing guard where kids cross at that point in the
Right.
intersection.
It'd be cheaper to get a crossing guard.
It's right where Sun Valley is.
Right where Sun Valley is. Yeah, there's a crosswalk there,
Yes.
so you got to cross the road. And
Yeah.
okay, that's something to look at, right?
We'll add it to we'll have engineering take a look at that as well, if that's okay with everyone?
Yeah.
Just for informational purposes at least?
Thank you.
Yep. And then we'll if everybody can just study the existing one that's already approved. Let's talk about what we want to do with it. It's a temporary easement in 35 square feet. Let's take a look at your packet, and then let's reconvene on that. Okay, item D, report.
Yes.
At
so-
first, I thought this was a joke.
This is the report. As the technology subcommittee has been pushing for quite some time, and the chairman as well. This is a system that's put on the town website where folks can go in and put in their request, their complaint, their concern. It gets driven to the proper department. There's 2 benefits to it. The bigger benefit is that folks shouldn't have to call you for a routine, hey, there's a pothole on my street. I know, I see Mr. Palmeri when I'm dropping my kids off, let me go tell him about this pothole. Because I know that's a significant friction point for a lot of you that get these one-offs. Plus, it makes it much faster for us. We get the issue comes in, it gets routed within 1 business day to the department, and we're on it very quickly. So we've had 54 responses since the end of last week, but we started at March 1st. There is a breakdown in your packet of where the heavy things are going. And it's interesting because when you're looking at budgetary purposes as well, you want to know where those tax dollars are going. No surprise, it is the spring thawing season. Potholes are inundating the complaint box. So almost 3/4 of Sullivan residents right now, when they have a problem in town or going to our website, it's a paving, curbing, pothole repair. Or there's a snowbank that they don't like where it is. That's maybe in a crosswalk, it's at a bus stop. So Public Works and roads is taking everything. We do get a little bit of property code violations. A few people found some glitches with the new website that they want to report, which we really appreciate. And the other ones is a lot of speeding complaints. We get inundated with speeding complaints. I know the council as a whole gets a lot of speeding complaints. We've got the police department's doing a great job with the resources they have. We have a dedicated, full-time person whose only job is to do speed. However, if we have a bunch of call-outs, we pull him from the road and assign him as just regular patrol. So if we are short-staffed, the speeding enforcement goes down. We have 200 miles of roads, so 1 person doing radar is not going to be the saving grace of it all, but we are working very hard on the speeding. Any questions on that app? Has anybody checked it out?
I would just encourage folks to, anytime we get a call, even if you're going to send an email to the town manager, ask the resident to use the tool, because it's people don't know about it. So if we keep sending them to that link on the website, and it's on the top of every page, I think we'll develop that habit, and people will get the information they need much more rapidly. It'll go, like you said, to the team more rapidly.
And we've got a little widget in Portal on, so we can make sure when it's crossed off, when it's closed off. And we're going to work to get that public facing soon as well, so the public can actually see the progress that's getting done.
Excellent. Okay. Item E, ConnDOT acquiring property for Marion Avenue Bridge replacement.
So normally, I would just sign off on easements for Eversource or CTDOT, but in this case, for this project, CTDOT is looking for a vote for the town council to provide the easement. The easement letter is, and this is the project that you had a presentation on quite a while back, is that Marion Bridge project, where they did one towards the north, and now they're doing the one towards the south, right by School Street. So they've offered the town $2,450 for the temporary construction easement. Engineering took a look at it, they had no concerns. As far as I'm concerned, this is just a formality to get the project done that they're paying a great deal for.
Okay, any questions? Hearing none. F, Berlin Street Passage for water line upgrades. We talked about that a little earlier. I gave an update during Council-matic.
I think that you covered it, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions on the Berlin Street paving? And then G, mandatory PZC 824 referral number 574, recommendation on the elementary school bond referendum proposal.
So the Planning and Zoning Commission met last week. They provided a positive recommendation for the bond referendum. Again, we're gonna ask for a table of this till a following meeting. And I did have a little bit of good news, if anybody wants to hear it. I know it's getting late. No, no good news. Okay, we'll pass that.
Go ahead.
Just a little bit of good news. If you're following the solar things that were going on, we had Titan Energy here. They presented the last meeting pretty late, and they said, well, they weren't going to do the police station unless they did the high school. So the Board of Education declined to have the high school solarized. So I called Titan Energy the next day when I found out, and I said, we need that carport. It's been on the capital budget for 4 years now, and I want the $25,000 in savings every year because our budget is tight. So I said, go back to the vendor and tell them if they want to do business with the town ever in the future, if they need to do this project for us. So within 3 hours, I signed the contract, and the police station is getting the solar. We'll have that $25,000, and we'll have that carport. So a little bit of good news on a rather long meeting.
He made an offer he couldn't refuse. Luca Brazzi.
I'm watching The Godfather.
Any questions on that?
I take everything.
I had 2 items for the town manager, if it pleases the council. Behind Ideal Tavern, something to follow up on, the municipal parking lot, if you pull in from where Ideal Tavern is in the old Paul Gregory's, you pull in there, and when you go down to the bottom of the parking lot, it turns 90 degrees to the left and goes out to Liberty Street. Right where it turns left, Alex, there is some old striping that is still in the driving lane to turn left. I was down there Saturday evening, and I drove down, and the parking lot was full and couldn't get out very easily because people had parked continuously in the 3 or 4 spots that were should have been open for passage to Liberty Street. So I couldn't do the loop around, and then somebody's behind me, and I can't back out, and I can't turn the truck around because it's kind of tight in there with all the cars. So I think we need to have somebody look at maybe taking the stripes out and putting in some arrows so that people know not to park there, that, you know, so if we can just assess that. And
Are you referring to the little way that goes right to Liberty? Because that's not, we don't own it. We maintain it, but we technically don't own it, but we will. Is it
Yeah.
that what you're referring to, that little?
from Center Street, go down the driveway.
Yep.
And at the bottom of the driveway, it turns hard 90 degrees.
Yes.
Right where you turn.
Right where you turn.
There's,
Okay.
there's old parking lines that are there. I don't think they're
Yes.
supposed to be there, because that's supposed to circle
It was
through.
overstriped originally.
Okay.
Right.
And after about a week, people realized it, and I think the highway department went in and just painted over it.
Black.
The black paint is fading.
Okay.
And maybe-
The actual reflective white is coming through.
Gotcha.
Maybe it's more appropriate for the parking authority to take a look at this as well. So it's up to you.
Sure, no,
If you want to put it on their agenda, I think they meet this week.
They do, and if it's, I'll bring it up at their meeting.
Have them decide, to take a look at it. And then the second one is the linear trail. I know that there's been some discussions and some movements on that. So, if you can just maybe put that on our next agenda for the council to talk about what the potential plan is, and is there any action the council needs to take so we can get this project going forward? Okay. Item 6, Town Attorney's Report. Item A, farm lease on town property at 64 Blueberry Lane.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So it was brought to my attention that there was a lease or agreement with Leaf that expired at the end of 2025. I understand from speaking with Mr. Palmieri that Leaf is applying for grants and they need some type of contractual arrangement with the town, acknowledging the relationship they have. As a brief history, and I apologize, I'm passing around the documents now that didn't quite make it into the packet. The town created a lease with Lewis Farms at the time in January of 2024, and they were gonna rent the farm at 64 Blueberry Lane for $525 a year for a 15-year term, so it would've went through 2019. In 2016, the town put out an RFP for nonprofit organizations to perform agricultural and educational functions upon the property. We know that Leaf ended up winning that proposal, and they've been operating there since. Pursuant to the agreement, which is in the first and second page of the packet I just brought around, the town is responsible for capital expenses on the property, and that's referred to as the maintenance on the structures on the property, not including normal wear and tear. And speaking with our town manager, he confirmed that the town has been carrying out the capital expenses and doing the agreement, or following the agreement. The only thing I will note is on the second page, it does have some sort of provision. It says if Leaf is unable to continue the programs up to 1 year, Leaf shall have the right to terminate this agreement and revert back to the current relationship with the town, which was the lease for the sum of $525. So right now, we're obviously out of the lease and this contract, so we need some sort of direction as to how we'd like to move forward with Leaf. I know that they serve a very critical function for the town, and I think all of us are pleased with what they do, so just some sort of guidance so we can help Leaf out in terms of.
Yeah, and I think Chris and I had spoken offline about this, and also Vice Chair Clark. You know, it sounds like Leaf is interested in extending the contract. I know the Farm Heritage and Open Space Committee and you guys who are all working with them have also had a great relationship. And I think, Chris, you were in favor of, finding whatever the proper contractual language is to offer the extension to them.
Right, so a couple things just to share with everyone too. The town has actually benefited from 2 grants. The first one was a farmland restoration grant, which because of this agreement, Leaf applied for, received. So should Leaf not function on there, the town is benefiting from that because it's on town property. And the second is an irrigation grant. So that's 95% complete as well. That's the one that the town attorney mentioned, that when he went to get the completion for that project, they said, oh, the lease expired. So upon hearing that, we brought it to Open Space. The Open Space Committee took with unanimous consent, decided to support the project moving forward. And in talking to the town attorney, we thought a 10-year lease total, but do 5-year with an option to renew for another 5 years, which was what was presented to the Open Space Committee.
Okay, and later on in the meeting, I think we have an action on this? Or do we just need to kind of have a
In the interest of time,
unanimous consent on this?
I can't imagine anyone on this panel is gonna say no. I mean, what Mark Ramsey does for the town of Southington, it'd be a disservice. I mean, goodness.
So in talking to the town attorney, what we'd be looking for probably later in the agenda is just an action to authorize the town attorney and/or town manager to enter into an agreement on behalf of the town.
Sounds good. So do we want to add that agenda item? Do we have?
I'll make a motion to add it.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, it is on there. It's on there, apologies. Yep. Hold on one second. No, it's not. I had only originally.
Motion to add it as an agenda
I had
item.
only originally had worked with the town manager to add it under the town attorney.
got a motion, sir.
So we have a motion from Mike and a second from Josh to add an agenda item for the approval of extending the Leaf contract for 5 years with a 5-year renewal to the agenda under, let's see, new business C. Is that correct?
Yep.
We'll call it extension of Leaf contract. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor of adding the agenda item?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously to add that. Item B, approval for landline revision agreement with Tom Curtis.
Yes, so in the January 12th Town Council meeting, the Town Council authorized Alex to enter into a contract to finalize the land swap with Mr. Curtis on South End Road. And I'm pleased to announce that we are under contract and we're hoping to close on that in the next month or so.
Excellent. It's a long time coming, years.
Thank you.
It's been worked on. Chris?
I'm just curious, because I thought the last council did this. It's on the agenda
It
tonight.
is.
but-
It's just an update.
Oh, just an
Yeah.
update?
Yeah, it was just.
No action tonight.
Yeah, there's no
Okay.
action.
No.
Alex
But
already
we
signed the
did-
contract.
Finalized, the contract was
But we
finalized.
did approve this,
Yes.
didn't
We did.
Yeah.
It was like 4 months ago or
That's
so,
what I
maybe
thought.
more.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Dave?
When I read through this, I just had one quick question. It looks like we're swapping the exact same square footage of land.
Correct. Correct.
So what is the $15,000 for?
It's for the historical attribute, and this is for the root cellar
Yeah.
that is on that property.
So-
It's the purchase agreement that, so what happened was, the ask was for $15,000 to acquire the property that was needed. That's what was assessed. The problem became, if we acquired the property, we were gonna make the owner's lot non-conforming because it would fall under the required square footage. So, this previous council agreed to purchase that, but also give just enough square footage on the south side of the property so that the lot would still be conforming, according to zoning standards. So
the
we
lot-
wanted to purchase that.
The lot is conforming.
The lot will be conforming once it's closed. It's conforming now.
Yes.
If we purchased that small sliver in the back to preserve the historic site, it would be non-conforming. So we agreed to give a piece of parcel that was not worth the same amount as the back because it didn't have historical significance to it.
Okay.
So that in the future, they could sell their property and have it as conforming.
The 15,000 is for the historic value we're purchasing.
Exactly.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Yes, sir. You got it. Okay. So, any other questions for the town attorney? Item 7, public communications. Is there anybody who lives in town or works in town or would like to speak during public communications? Come on up and state your name and address for the record.
Anne Marie Conity, Mount Vernon Road. I'm going to finish what I couldn't finish at the last meeting. I'm going to say what I've said in the past. I think it needs to be said. I'm 71 years old. My mother used to say you can say anything as you get older. I know a lot of people in this town. I have a lot of people calling me and say, Anne Marie, it's great to have you back. Keep doing what you're doing. So I'm going to do what I'm doing. You all get elected, and then your arrogance, need for power, how can I get voted back, take precedent, and you forget about the taxpayers who put you there to do your best for all the taxpayers concerned and not just focus on one group like the Board of Education. What about seniors? What about costs to run the rest of the town? We have a problem now with people not paying their sewer bills. Well, I predict soon we will have a problem with people not paying their property taxes. You think you are smart in your own minds, so you ignore good suggestions from the public and do as you will. Well, you are crippling Southington, but you are so into yourselves you don't even see it. When you make 6 figures and money flows, when you have large pension funds, you cannot relate to the middle and lower class and what they have to endure to pay their taxes. There is always a give and take, and it appears you do not care. When you lack a moral compass, this happens, and I think that is what I am seeing. After you cripple us with taxes, will you move south to avoid the high taxes here and leave the burden with us? Also, let me point out our charter. It states we have a town manager that runs the town, who reports to the town council and is hired by the town council. We then have boards in place to keep the checks and balances. However, since Republicans have held the supermajority, and let me point out, I am a Republican, it seems to me that the town council has been trying to run this town instead of allowing the town manager to run this town. And you know who I'm speaking to. If you don't, go look in the mirror when you get home. This is not only inappropriate, but it goes against our charter. And it's interesting to see what was going on up here on the dais. And I'm not a witch. I didn't know this was going to happen. So if you want to run the town, put your hats in to be the town manager. Otherwise, keep out of the town manager's business and the board's business unless you have a problem and need to call them in to talk to the council as a whole about it. I am sick and living in this town all my life and watching it deteriorate more and more. I didn't think it could get any more underhanded, but it has. I can see it. I can read your faces. I can read it. God gave me that gift. I can see it. I am embarrassed, as you should be, if you are one of the ones I am referring to. And I guarantee you, you know who I'm referring to. I stand here tonight and hold you all accountable to abide by the charter or get out. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. I want to first, before I get into my thing, thank you all for service to Southington. None of you make money serving here until 11 o'clock sometimes at night and missing time with your family and children. So I really appreciate that you serve. And hopefully you're all doing it for the right reasons. And I'm going to try to focus on that you all are.
Just state your name and address for the record.
Susan Zabahansky, Plantsville, Connecticut. You see, it's Paul, you interrupted my flow. I don't have anything prepared. But it is budget season, and I'm not, the day after Easter is a holiday for me as a Christian too. So it's Easter Monday, so we just take it off and enjoy time with our families. So I may not be able to be here, but I do want to speak on the budget. The assessment is affecting, as you guys all know, people in this town who have homes that are not large. So it's the smaller towns and homes. My neighborhood, especially my neighbor's assessment went up 100%. He tried to fight it or whatever you want to call it, and it's to no avail. So it is, no matter how much you lower the mill rate, it's going to be that portion of the town that's taking the brunt of the tax burden. It's not going to be businesses. So we have to be very conscientious about, to me, zero increase. I'm sorry. Let the town government figure out where they need to make their own cuts within the budget by doing zero increases. I mean, that's just, you guys know where I stand on that. I will be asking the Board of Finance to remove the tennis courts from the project with the parking lot. Maybe we look at Rec Park or Memorial or any of the other parks, Panthorn, that have beautiful courts. That's $700,000. It's still not enough. You've got the fire department asking for 3 firemen. Yes, we did allow them to apply for the Safer grant, which some of you would say is recognizing the need. We've given the fire department 5 full-time firemen in the last 5 years, if I recall correctly. It could be 4. Correct me if I'm wrong. You guys know. Part of the problem with the fire department is they're not willing to negotiate. I went to a Board of Finance meeting where they went outside of the budget process to try and get this accomplished, which I think is egregious to the taxpayers to go outside the budget process. So they can't have a public hearing on that to get those fire departments. That should have never happened. I don't know who suggested they go there. I'm not placing blame, but I just think that should have never happened. I happened to be at that meeting. I would say, and I don't know for certain, but 95%, if I had to guess, of firefighters don't live in our town. And yet the union was there trying to call for a tax increase on our taxpayers in our town. I recognize the need of the fire department, but I also have looked at the number of calls that they've made since we've given them those 6 guys, 5 guys, whatever it's been in the last 5 years. And the call volume has not increased, despite what anyone says. I've looked at their numbers that they present every year, and you guys can look at them too. It, maybe fluctuates a little here and there, but not enough to substantiate 3 more guys. And they'll tell you we need 3 men on a truck apparatus, whatever you call it, in order to leave the fire department. I get it. But the backfilling problem, if they have a guy call out, is because of the 24 on, 3 off schedule. Guys don't even live near town. Some of them live near the Rhode Island border. I know some that live an hour away. Do you think they're going to come back here when they have 3 days off and they've taken another job? The town is providing them pensions. They're providing them their health insurance. And these guys are going and working second jobs. So they're not going to come back and backfill. And now if we give them the 4th guy so that they have 4 guys every time, they're not even willing to negotiate and said it's a problem with the thing to backfill that 4th. They want that 4th guy backfilled now. You know how much overtime that's going to be for the town? So that has to be a no. I'm sorry. Or they have to find out where they can cut administratively to get those extra guys, like the police department was willing to do. I appreciate that the chief came and said, I need 2 patrolmen on the road, and I am willing to look at my budget and cut to get 2 patrolmen on the road. That's responsible budgeting. So
If you can just wrap it up now. So. Thanks.
I'll wrap that up because hopefully I'll be able to be here, and I know I'll be able to be here for the next one. Thank you, guys.
Thanks so much. Okay, anybody else who would like to speak during public communications? Mr. Urso.
Congratulations to that young lady. My name is Al Urso, 73 River Street, Southington. 10 years ago, I spoke about this shift, 24 on and 3 days off. It generates overtime. It's not a shift for a department that gets 3,000 calls a year, 25 to 3,000. Just signed a new contract, 4-year contract. Nothing in the contract to help with fire department overtime. She's absolutely right. It's a 10-year problem. You have to look at that shift. I don't care that they have full-time jobs somewhere else. It's not up to me. This is not a shift for a town this size. It's for Bridgeport, Danbury, Hartford. If they want to work that shift, let them go to Danbury or Bridgeport or Hartford. And she's right. It isn't 95%, but I think only 30% live in town. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Urso. Anybody else who would like to speak during public communications? Good evening.
Good evening. Seth Korn, Yorktown Road. I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank the council for having a public hearing tonight and appreciate the amount of parents that came out and talked passionately about the schools. And I know it's late. I've been at work and haven't gone home yet to see my kids. But I want to tell you a story. So I'm driving to this meeting tonight, and I'm thinking of my first car I ever owned. I love that car. I have memories of that car that will never, ever be able to be bought from anything. I love that car. I have a lot of history of that car. But at some point, I had to make a choice. There was a couple of repairs that had to get done, and the cost for that repair was more than what the car was worth. So I had to make a decision. I was a teenager. I was broke. But the decision was, do I spend $5,000 on an engine, a transmission, tires, all the maintenance that have to come to that car? Or do I put that money towards a new car? And the answer was easy at that point. I'm going to get a much more efficient car. It's going to last me a lot longer. And I'm not going to have to keep putting money into that car that's probably going to, what's next to break? We're at that breaking point. You can kick a can as many times as you want, but eventually That can doesn't look like a can anymore. It's flat, and you can't drink out of it. So you got to stop trying to kick that can. And I apologize, but before I didn't have the opportunity, but I do want to hand this out to you all because I know you have a tough decision to make over the next couple weeks. I appreciate, again, your time to allow the public to come out and talk about this. And I'm more than happy and looking forward to the conversations to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there anybody else who would like to come up and speak? Anybody else? Okay, public communications is closed. We will move on to item 8, old business. Item A, action on the report of the Board of Finance.
Motion to approve.
Motion from Mike and a second from Mr. Zoni. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes unanimously. Item B, action on CT DOT acquiring property from Marion Avenue Bridge replacement.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the DOT acquiring the property. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Mr. Chair, could you call the roll for that?
Yeah, sure. Madam Clerk, call the roll. Sorry about that.
Morelli,
Yes.
Morrison,
Yes.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Serafino,
Yes.
Zoni,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
Gaida,
Yes.
Chaplinsky.
Yes, motion passes unanimously. Item C, action on PZC mandatory 824 referral number 574, recommendation, the elementary school bond referendum proposal. Looking for a motion to table.
Motion. Second.
We have a motion for Mr. Zoni, he was quick, and Mr. Del Santo, a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Item D, action on Berlin Street passage for water line upgrades. I'm looking for a motion to table that.
Motion to table. Second.
Second, it's opposite this time. Mr. Del Santo, Mr. Zoni is the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously on the table. Item 9, new business, A, tax refunds.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the tax refunds.
I have it in C. Apologies, Mrs. Guide. I want you to make your motion one more time.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the tax refunds as presented in our packets.
Okay, we have a
Second.
motion from Councilwoman Guida, second from Mr. Del Santo. Any discussion on the tax refunds? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Item B, appointments. Item 1, Commission for Persons with Disabilities, 1 member, 2-year term, expires April 2027.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to give the name of Tara Chaplinsky, 140 Washington Drive here in Southington for that position.
Okay, we have a motion? Second from Mr. Morelli. Any discussion? Call the roll, Madam Clerk. Time's up.
Motion to adjourn. Oh, no.
Morelli,
Yes.
Morrison,
Yes.
Palmieri, Serafino,
Yes.
Zoni,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
Gaida,
Yes.
Chaplinsky.
I'll abstain. Motion passes 801. Item 2, Senior Citizen Commission, 1 member, 3-year term, expires March 2027. Are we ready for that?
Yes, I'd like to thank Lisa Camuso, who served in this role, taking on the reins from her father. So she's done a good job. Now she's obviously on the Board of Education, so I just want to thank her for her service. With that, we'll put forward the name of Jen Kahn of 20 Brownstone Drive in Southington.
Okay, we have a motion for Jen Kahn.
Second.
I'll second.
Oh.
Oh,
Second.
all right. Excellent. Great nomination. Any discussion on that?
If I could, Mr. Chair, Clerk Larkin and I have not received a resignation from Mrs. Camuso, so if we can just get that.
I have it.
You have it, excellent, thank you very much.
Okay.
Perfect.
I know Miss Khan. I've known her my whole life, so good choice. She's a good person. Good family.
All right. That's wonderful. I agree. Looking forward to seeing her active and glad that she's taken on an appointment. So any other discussion on that? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Congratulations, Jen. And item C, we're looking for a motion on the extension of the leave contract as discussed earlier and per the town attorney's agreement.
I'll make a motion to allow the town attorney and/or town manager to enter into a contract on behalf of the town council for the lease on the town property at 64 Blueberry Lane.
Second.
We have a motion by Chris and a second from Josh. Any discussion?
Yes.
Jen, Vice Chair Clock.
I want to take a moment to thank Chris because he works tirelessly to work with Mark and Leaf and program and promote it. You really do so much. You're such an asset. Thank you. And thank you for bringing this, and thank you for making sure that everything is continuous.
Thank you.
Awesome. Any other discussion on that?
It's a great program, and we're lucky to have it here in town.
Man, we are lucky to have the program and Mark, his family. You know, we mentioned Mark's name a lot, but Mark's family is also involved in this day in and day out, and so kudos to all who are involved. Thank you to all of them.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr.
I
Morelli.
have to agree with Jen. Chris, you do an awesome job. And I thought I was losing my mind tonight because I thought we already approved that. It was from the open space meeting. I was sitting there going, I thought we said that already.
Excellent. Great work, Chris. Thank you. All right. Why don't we call the roll on that one, Madam Clerk?
Morelli,
Yes.
Morrison,
Yes.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Serafino,
Yes.
Zoni,
Yes.
Clack,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Most certainly, yes.
Gaida,
Yes.
Chaplinsky.
Yes, motion passes unanimously.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second. So Mr. Del Santo and Mr. Serafino, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thanks.